this, refresh. I'm gonna be trying something. New today. We are, yes, we are live. We're streaming on Kick, of all places. We're getting there. Okay, let me, I need to figure out how to open up the chat separately, because otherwise I'm like never gonna see the Kick chat. Let's see. How does this should work? Anyways, let me announce it on Discord first. Boom. Going live. Oh yeah, I forgot to announce yesterday's stream. Damn. What a terrible streamer I am. Alright, that is announced. Now, shall we? Unmute this. Okay. Let's figure this out while I'm on. Let's figure this out while I'm on this tip. I also. Okay, fine. How do I get the chat out of here? God damn it. Is there like kicking? Yeah. Kick chat URL. Yeah, I need the pop-out chat. Haven't they programmed the pop-out chat? Like, come on. You have to have programmed that. Is there like an option here? Pop out. Okay, there we go. Okay, it's kick.com/oau/chatroom. Alright, there we go. First streamer to stream on Kick because it fits with my name. Oh yeah, knees and kicking it? Okay. I don't expect a lot of viewers on Kick. Wait. I was saying I don't expect a lot of viewers on Kick. Holy shit, there's already 4 viewers with no promotion, no visibility. Hey! Hi Kickers, welcome to the stream. I mostly cover politics and news and also some video games. Tonight we're gonna check out some we're gonna be checking out some Russia-Ukraine news. Let me hide the infinite bullshit thing. I want to check out this debate. All right, let's go. Cool. Okay, let me. First time on this platform. Need to change my layout. Okay, this works. I actually have all the chats on my second screen. That's perfect. All right, amazing. So, what's been happening with Russia? Let's do a little map time. I haven't looked at the map in a while. My understanding is Bakhmut is still under siege. Yes, it is. Bakhmut is still being fought over. What's the latest news in the area? At Bakhmut direction, Russian army shelled Minkivka, Vasukivka, Zalizhnyansky, Bakhmut, Krivorivka. Okay, so shelling. And then more shelling. I know this one's offensive actions. Okay, so they're still fighting tooth and nail for Bakhmut. I don't know what the Ukrainian army's planning to do with the Russian advances all along this front. The Russian advance is slow, but what the concept for a counteroffensive is going to be. My understanding is we still haven't sent like any tanks. That we've been ramping up logistics and so on and so forth. Has France sent any of the AMXs that they promised? Military TV. AMX-10 RC fighting vehicles have just arrived. Oh wait, so they did send them. Yo, okay, stop the music. stop the music. This is actual news. They did send them. Holy cow. I had my doubts.
Designed for armored reconnaissance purposes, meet one of the best-wheeled tank destroyer made by French, AMX-10RC armored vehicle. Different from the amphibious AMX-10P, the AMX-10RC is mainly deployed for reconnaissance missions in dangerous...
Look, okay. The AMX-10P, it's got a small PP. It doesn't have the big cannon, but you know what they say. It's not the size, it's how you use it, okay? Don't judge.
Sea armored vehicles, but his administration did not specify Ukraine to supply AMX-10RC armored vehicles, but his administration did not specify how many or when they would be delivered. So how is it going on? According to the French administration, President Emmanuel Macron agreed to supply AMX-10RC armored vehicles during a phone discussion with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky. Mr. Macron's office did not say how many units of AMX-10RC would be sent or when they would be sent. The vehicles, which carry a cannon like a tank but travel on tires rather than tracks, are typically deployed for armed reconnaissance. The AMX-10RC is a powerfully equipped armored reconnaissance vehicle with excellent road and cross-country mobility.
So wait, this guy's saying we don't know how many, but actually, if you look back at January, the PR statements given by the French government, Macron had promised approximately 100 of them, which is why this is really interesting. Because even though you know, like American Abrams tanks or Challengers, German the German Challenger tanks, that kind of stuff, those are much stronger vehicles. No one is offering as many vehicles of a single kind as France did with that like 100 vehicle number. So what's up with that? Why is this guy saying we don't know how many?
Protected against light infantry weapons. It is produced by Nexter System, a French company which also manufactures Leclerc tanks and 155mm Caesar self-propelled guns.
Yep.
The AMX-10RC design is, however, different from the AMX-56 Leclerc, although it is the first Western armored vehicle that comes anything close to what is called a light tank. A unique feature of this wheeled tank in the 6x6 form.
Oh god, this is gonna be a tank nerd's explanation. I wanted to see like the news. Oh, but I mean, it is how powerful are those vehicles? But he's saying they have just arrived in Ukraine. Sébastien Lecornu, French Minister of Defense, announced the arrival of the first batch of tanks on Thursday 16th. Okay, so at the end last week. All right, let me look up that article, and we're gonna go back to this video and see what's up with those tanks exactly. Tank discourse is back. So AMX-10RC armored vehicles have just arrived in Ukraine, and some of them are already gone to the front line. Interesting. Lecornu AMX-10. Alright, this is going to be a French article. I'll just go over it real quick, and I'll translate the important parts. War in Ukraine, the first French tanks have arrived on the front line. So the Minister of the Army, Sébastien Lecornu, has declared that the tanks have just arrived in Ukraine. Some of them are already on the front line. He has specified without giving out the number of vehicles delivered. The delivery was supposed to intervene 2 months after the announcement, so we're within the time frame. We are within the time frame, so as to prepare the crew and train them at the training camp of Saumur and the camp of Canjouer, and then send the tanks. Okay, so they trained the Ukrainian soldiers here in France, actually. That's interesting. I'm looking how we can eventually send them a second wave of materials. I'm currently preparing a certain number of decisions for the President of the Republic, because those tanks are being well handled by our Ukrainian partner, has added the minister. France had announced the sending of the AMX-10RCs. Oh, it's not Challengers, it's Leopards. Yeah, the UK promised Challengers, but most of other countries have promised Leopards. Yeah, Paris had decided not to send Leclercs. defending the decision because not because of a political taboo, but because of an operational and very pragmatic approach. Indeed, France France possesses very few like main battle tanks, which are the Leclercs, only 200 operational ones, meaning they can't really afford to send them, which there's a little bit of extra context to this as well. France has gotten a lot of shit for supposedly not supporting Ukraine enough, but France did send literally a third of their high-tech, most advanced artillery, for example, to Ukraine. France has weakened itself considerably in sending support. And the second thing is we no longer produce the Leclercs. Yeah, there's been big problems. There's been big problems with the military-industrial complex and the logistics that this has shown. However, 247 AMX-10s are within the French army has 247 AMX-10s according to the Ministry of the Army. Tanks which are currently being replaced by the Jaguar, and so they can afford to send them over. Okay, cool.
Is the Messier auto industry hydropneumatic suspension with variable ground clearance and camber, as well as centralized lubrication and tire inflation system. Its unique hydropneumatic suspension technology allows the crew to raise and lower the vehicle's hull, similar to the American lowrider car, which reduces its visibility to adversaries.
That's actually super big brain.
The vehicle also has the ability to rotate 360 degrees like a tracked vehicle, enabling it to change direction quickly. Furthermore, the AMX-10RC is featured with a nuclear, biological, chemical protective system.
I thought they said there, dude. When they said nuclear, I was fucking stoked. I thought we had nuclear tanks. Now that's what I want to see. That's the kind of progress. That's the kind of future for humanity that I want to see. I want to see nuclear tanks. I want to see Metal Gear on wheels. Okay, that's the future we deserve. Hey, Jokesta, how are you doing? Did I hear centralized lubrication? Hells yeah. You know a French tank is going to have centralized lubrication. We know what we want in our tanks, okay? Also, no, seriously though, obviously, since I have played World of Tanks for a few hours, I'm clearly a wartime expert on mechanized cavalry, modern tank battle and all that stuff. Being able to actually control the height of the tank, like he said, to control like visibility and stuff like that, that's actually super fucking cool. I would love to have that in World of Tanks, unironically.
And can undertake reconnaissance in radioactive environments. Manned by a crew of 4, the AMX-10RC is a heavily armored combat vehicle which weighs 15.8 tons. With a slightly heavier variant, the AMX-10RC...
That's not that heavy. I mean, have you seen your mom? Like, come on. That's a pretty light tank.
CR, weighing 16.6 tons. The vehicle can also be outfitted with a SEPAR mine IED protection package, increasing its weight to 22 tons.
Jesus.
From 1981 to 1985, the AMX-RC vehicle is powered by Hispano-Suiza HS115 multi-fuel with 250 horsepower, and currently it has a Bout diesel model 6F11 SRX producing 280 horsepower. The AMX-10RC can reach a speed of 53 miles per hour on road.
That's a pretty good speed.
Range of 497 miles, while off-road it can run a pretty good range. 25 miles per hour. As a heavily equipped armored reconnaissance vehicle,
this stag is fucking tearing up the ground. This is how you create the crop circles, okay? You just have some like drunk soldiers.
I'm a little uncomfortable.
Hey, Scoopster, how are you doing? You just have a tank fucking dig a hole in the middle of the field. How are you doing?
Against light infantry weaponry, the AMX-10RC is designed with all-around armor against 14.5mm armor piercing and frontal armor against 23mm armor piercing.
Interesting.
This wheeled tank is mainly armed with 105mm F2BK Mecha L47 gun. This cannon features modern sub-caliber rounds that can penetrate 350mm armor at a range of up to 7,217 feet.
It is a bit of a glass cannon. It's a NAFO tank. It is. It is. Those are the tanks. So I've been waiting because I've been skeptical of whether Macron's going to actually send the tanks he promised back in January. I don't know if you remember. We talked about it. The French government, Macron, has promised 100 AMX-10 RC tanks to Ukraine, which was incredible because what Ukraine wanted, what Ukraine's been asking for months now, is for roughly 300 tanks. And France was like, okay, we got you, fam. We got you 100 tanks. Let's go. Because then the US is like, we're going to give you, what was it, 15 or 20 Abrams tanks within a year. And then the UK is like, okay, we got like 5 Challengers. Then there's like half a dozen Leopard tanks here and there, a couple Polish ones, a couple German ones, a couple Canadian ones, et cetera, et cetera. Like, it was very, very, like, not nickel and I kind of nickel and dime, just like a little bit here, a little bit there, which is really bad for logistics, really bad for organizing the deliveries and all that stuff. And I was surprised. I was surprised to see France be like, hell, let's fucking give him a hundred of those. And apparently they last week, and I missed this news. Last week, the Minister of the Defense of the Army has declared that the AMX-10 RCs, the first batch of deliveries, are already in Ukraine entirely, and some of them are already fighting on the front line. So we're looking at this video, learning a bit more about them, what's actually up. And what seems to be up is that those are glass cannons, right? So they're definitely armored, right? What are we saying? Like 15 millimeter armor on the sides, 20 millimeter armor on the front, and a big ass cannon on them. So like they're definitely going to be protected against small arms fire and all sorts of stuff that infantry can bring against them. But it seems like, looking at those stats, it seems like those are glass cannons in the sense that against another tank, they can penetrate the most other tanks, definitely like the T-72s and the BMPs we saw Russia deliver towards its western front line over the past months, though those will definitely be destroyed by the AMX-10's munitions. But the AMX-10, I don't know if it can survive like a shot from the main cannon of a T-72. Yay, tank news. Because there's actual news, Chow. This is not like bullshit tank discourse. France has actually delivered on its January promise of sending the AMX-10 RCs to Ukraine. I'm genuinely surprised. Because a lot of people were talking a lot of shit for a lot of time, and they actually did it. The badmen, they actually sent the tanks. How many did they send? So they didn't officially disclose how many they sent. They didn't disclose. France until now in general has been pretty low key about the like specific numbers. Has been trying to usually like with the artillery, with the Caesar artillery they sent, they only revealed the numbers a couple months later. My impression is that France is trying to respect operational security. Loki, that's a nice series. Yeah. Russia has like 5 T-72s. The rest are T-62s and T-54s. I think they have more than that, but I know what you mean. It's the same. Okay, Chow, come play World of Tanks with me, okay? Let me show you the beauty of the tanks. I know how many everyone else sent. Or the original promise from Macron back in January was 100 tanks. Macron promised to send 100 AMX-10 RCs. Now, did they actually send that many? I don't know, because I just looked up the declaration from the Minister of the Army was vague about the exact amount. The only thing that was kind of, I guess, kind of like relevant to this is that the Le Cornu mentioned there being an eventual second wave of delivery of materials to Ukraine. Wikipedia says 30 to 40. Interesting. Do they have a source? Because I wasn't able to find one. I only like Googled it for 5 seconds, but I got to talk about China's peace plan on last night's Prime panel. It was actually good. I recommend. Yeah, I saw it. I saw the VOD posted up on Tiberius's channel. I actually have it open to show you how like that I actually do respect. Wait, where is it? Oh, it's here. I do have respect for. See, I had the tab open. Look at that. I actually was ready to watch it. I saw the title, China Intolerance. I saw your face. Chow, my favorite token Twitch politics realist guy. What did you think I was gonna say? On the panel, I recognize this guy, Icow Rich. He's pretty cool. I talked to him once. I know this guy, Tiberius, is pretty cool as well. Don't know who the fuck those people are, but I'm sure they're the opponents and they're cringe. And you're right. Oh, it's the T-14 that they have like 5. Yeah, the T-72 is a Cold War era tank. The T-72 is a Cold War era tank. It's not their modern thing that they haven't built a lot of. That's also why I was like not. I wasn't sure what you meant by they have like 5 T-72s. Like a lot of them are rusted, but they do have a lot of them still operational. All right.
Therefore, they should be able to deal with a main battle tank. In addition, two 7.62mm NF1 coaxial machine guns.
Oh yeah, speaking of which, Chow. Fuck, you remind me the last weekend I was thinking about when should we need to schedule the Taiwan talk. Oh, I'm looking at the post panel. Erudite was on it and she really impressed me. Interesting. I skimmed the sources and I don't know French, but it didn't confirm well. Oh no. You can link it to me and I'll skim it, and I know French, but yeah. I'm free today. I was hoping to prepare. Like, what are we actually talking about? That's the thing. Wait, I wanted to like prepare for it. I'm not ready, Daddy. I'm not ready for that. I know anti-fascist militants in Ukraine got a tank, but I don't know what type it is. Well, right now we're looking. Right now we're looking. At the. Oh my God, it's your thing. I mean, I do have some general knowledge, but like I wasn't sure what it was that we were going to talk about. Like last time we talked about whether right, we had that discussion where you like clarified, we basically like got to the understanding that Taiwan is a de facto nation but not a de jure nation, right? But you want to give me to give you a rundown, because I can. No, I just did. I'm sorry, I just don't remember what it was we wanted to talk about, because I'm fucking scatterbrained. All right, let's watch this. I will lecture. You're gonna just turn this into your own stream. But yeah, banger. So Ukraine has received a certain undisclosed number of the French tanks that were promised back in January. So the French government has actually delivered on their promises. We've had a report last week from the French Ministry of Army about the delivery of the AMX-10 RCs, and so we're looking at a little video explaining the exact specs and capabilities of the tanks. Yeah, something between 1 and 100 tanks being delivered, because we don't know the exact numbers. I personally believe that the French government is running like operational security. They don't want to disclose exact numbers until sometime later when it's no longer like free information for the Russian MOD.
With 4,000 cartridge as second armament. There are also 12.7mm M2HBAA machine gun and 4 Gallic smoke dischargers as the add-on. Throughout its lifespan, the AMX-10RC underwent various modifications, such
There are French tanks. The cannon shoots a giant white flag. Very helpful in the end. Yeah. So those are. See, this is why people are saying Macron is actually like helping Russia. He's pro-Russian. It's because he's sending them French weaponry. It's all like specialized in surrender.
such as the addition of new thermal imaging sights, DIVT-16, 18, and 19 caster, increased steel armor, and improved.
Oh, the thermal imaging sights. That's actually pretty funny, by the way. There's a level of irony here that I'm not missing. It's that France got a lot of shit when the war started, because guess who's been selling materials to Russia between 2014 and 2022? France. And they were technically respecting the embargoes by not selling military materials, but they were selling night vision kits, for example, and night vision goggles, night vision kits for the Russian tanks and stuff like that. So, which technically is not weaponry, but we all know very well what they were being used for. So that's pretty ironic that now we're saying night vision equipped tanks to Ukraine. Respect to the French. Hey, Squidlicker, welcome to the stream. How are you doing? Yeah. We just learned that France has actually delivered on its promises to send AMX-10 RCs to the Ukrainian army. Apparently, according to the French MOD, they are already on the front line. Some of them are. The crews have been trained over the past 2 months in French training camps. Wait, you're pro-Ukraine? Yes, I am.
Muzzle brake, and the Finder C2R battlefield control system. These changes resulted in different versions of the vehicle, with varying capabilities.
That's rare around these parts. Oh, I know. The politics section. I know all about it. No, because I'm in the stream in the politics category right now. Especially for a leftist. Oh yeah, I know. A lot of leftists are like super reactionary, anti-American, and anything that opposes America is the good, and everything that that opposes America, like yeah, I know. To me, it's just super fucking cringe. Most Western. we got our token tanky in chat though. If you want to have that experience, you can talk with Landphobe. Are lefties anti-Ukraine and pro-Russia? Yeah, it's this. So it's this reactionary anti-American sentiment, right? Because America has been, and it's true, America has been responsible for war crimes and abuses and suppressing democratic processes all over the world for the last basically since like the Second World War, for the last what is that, like 70 years, basically. Like that is true. But because of that, people like go so far to on this like anti-American ideology that they just can't understand that there's nuance then in other situations. But what Joseph is saying true, yeah, there are righties who are pro-Ukraine and lefties who are pro-Ukraine, of course. But in general, it's more of an extremism thing, right? So most moderate people are pro-Ukraine in Western countries, both on the right and on the left. It tends to be the far left and the far right people who take those very like reactionary stances. On the far right, they really appreciate and respect Putin's strongman stance, Putin's lip service towards anti-LGBTQ movements, the fact that Putin has, it is known, Putin has actually supported financially and politically far-right movements all across Europe and in the United States, all across the Western world. And in the for far-left people, it's about... it's a mix of different perspectives. It's anti-Americanism. It's the fact that somehow some of them somehow mix up Putin's Russia and the USSR, which is very fucking weird to me. But I've seen people like if you're looking like Haas and Hinkle, those are people who borderline think that that like Russia has inherited the ideology of the USSR and that as communists they have to support Russia, which is fucking insane. Then you have also the you have people who basically like really bought hardcore into the Russian propaganda narratives. So, for example, Ukraine is Nazi. So, if Ukraine is Nazi and you're a leftist, you have to support whoever opposes the Nazis because everything is better than Nazis, even Putin. To be fair, let's be real. Also, most people are like actually. Like most people who will perhaps be a bit more not necessarily pro-Ukraine are probably just like anti-war, which is honestly a bit of a fair stance to take. Russia seems like real Nazis. Oh boy, do I have an article for you right after this on that topic actually. So many commies are so anti-Western that they end up opposing social progress, claiming it to be Western propaganda. Yeah. So that's the Haas and Hinkle thing. Like it's incredible to see Haas, someone who's identified as a communist for so long, and you see this like reactionary pull where he's transformed into basically a fucking Tucker Carlson when you listen to him talk about like LGBTQ issues. It's something I've even encountered IRL, because here in France, when you talk to like pure when you talk to like pure communists and pure socialists, there are those who have the more contemporary approach, which is mixing socialist and Marxist ideals with social progress. But there are the classical Marxists as well, and they are very, very prevalent here in. They're actually very, very prevalent here in France. And what I mean by classical Marxists are those who essentialize the all social issues down to class. So they will break. So for example, if you start talking about problems with race, with sex, gender, etc., if you start talking about those issues, they will actually want to tell you you're distracting us from the real problems, which are class. Just doing class essentialism, basically. Why was I talking about that? Oh yeah, I was going to like extreme niche like ideologies that end up leading to appreciating Putin. Well, and then you suddenly have like so then yeah, you got like people saying they're communists, but like being okay with being homophobic and shit like that. I'm anti-war as well, but pro people being able to defend themselves. I'm anti-war, anti-Putin's war. Get out. Yeah. Like I'm saying that it's a fair stance to take. Yeah, you have a perfect American accent that is super difficult for most French speakers. Yeah, because I was born in the U.S. I moved to France when I was 5, which means that I can. Je peux parler français si tu veux. But yeah. Hey, Beckdorf, how are you doing? Beckdorf. I'm an anarchist, so I support Ukraine because of the groups they're fighting against Russia, and the anarchists in Russia fighting against Russia. That's pretty fucking based. I'm not an anarchist. I'm really not an anarchist, but I really like I do have a lot of respect for the ideals of anarchism in a weird way, even though I absolutely don't believe in them. Fine, enduring the Patagonian wind in my vacation. Yo, we were on vacation. That's sick. Hey, what are you doing on Twitch, dude? What are you doing watching the stream? Go outside. Like, okay, maybe it's like 3 a.m. where you are. Go outside, dive in the sea, okay? Oh yeah, Svoboda, the party who had what, like 1 or 2% in the parliament for the past for the past 10 or 20 for the past 10 years. Nice one, Landphobe. All right, let's. I'm not getting baited. I'm not getting baited into debating Landphobe in my chat. Let's watch this video. I just came from touring, but no, it's 4:15, and I'm not going to that sea. Okay, okay. Anyways, welcome. Hope you're going to enjoy the stream.
Model of the AMX-10RC was able to swim, while the AMX-10RC Surblind, which had added armor, could not. The most recent version of the vehicle, the AMX-10RCR Revelries, has enhanced electronics. The AMX-10RC vehicles have been...
Dude, Russian. Dude, even though the Wagner Group is technically a PMC, the Wagner Group is pretty much a branch of the Russian army, and it's openly a fascist force. But yes, 99.99999% of Ukrainians practice Hitlerism. It's exactly. Hey, Little Depression 1234. How are you doing? Hope you're gonna become little happiness in watching the stream. Welcome to the stream. We're currently covering more tank discourse. We basically just learned that France has actually sent the tanks that they promised Ukraine 2 months ago. So we're looking at the little explanation of what are the capabilities of the AMX-10RC and what Ukraine's maybe going to actually do with them.
And used by the French army since the 1980s, with a total of 457 vehicles manufactured. These vehicles have seen action in various conflicts such as the Gulf War, Afghan War, and operations in Mali, Kosovo, and Ivory Coast. Currently, 245 of these vehicles are still in use by the French army, while others have been sold to Morocco, Qatar, and Cameroon. The remaining vehicles are being stored in warehouses. Ukraine is...
Oh yeah, 8th February.
allies for advanced weapons, which they believe.
Oh wait, no, it was in January. The tank promise was in January. This is a different situation. This does not spark joy. The tank spark joy. Hey, if I had an AMX-10 RC, that would spark joy for me. Okay, I would enjoy having my own tank. I read somewhere some weird extremist units are forming as volunteers to Russia, including the Stalinist motorist nationalist group. Oh no, oh no. Do you have a link? I want to check that out. That sounds wacky as fuck.
Necessary to fight against Russia. However, some countries, such as the US and Europe, have been hesitant to provide these arms due to concerns about escalating the conflict. As the situation has worsened and Russian aggression has increased, allies have become more willing to provide Ukraine with the weapons they need. France has previously provided Ukraine with various military equipment, such as armored personnel carriers, rocket launchers, air defense missile systems, anti-tank and anti-aircraft missiles, as well as around 18 Caesar howitzers. Other Ukraine allies have also provided support in the form of armored personnel carriers and vehicles.
I like how this guy's presenting like other Ukraine allies have also sent stuff. Dude, France is like one of like the 18 Caesar stuff is more like quality over quantity. I'll actually defend that. But just looking at raw numbers, France is one of the smallest donators to Ukraine. Like, let's chill. Let's chill with this presentation.
Such as German and British anti-aircraft vehicles and Soviet-designed tanks from Eastern European nations, including Poland. However, Ukraine is also looking for more heavy-duty fighting vehicles, which some of its allies have been hesitant to provide. For example, Germany has turned down requests for Leopard 2 tanks, but has agreed to send the Marder infantry fighting vehicle.
Wait, Germany has...
MX-10RC.
Has Germany changed its mind on the Leopard 2 again? Because we were covering this like a month ago, and like a month and a half ago, and Germany had finally relented, and not finally relented. It's that like no one fucking actually asked them. Like, Germany was gonna send Leopard 2 tanks, and now this video from what is this, like 3 days ago, is saying that Germany is not sending them. God, I missed a bunch of news.
Which the French government has referred to as the first armored vehicle of Western design promised to Ukraine, could bring new capabilities to Ukrainian soldiers in their fight against the Russian army. President Macron has previously faced criticism.
Wow, from some allies. Dude, President Macron has really changed. This is an amazing glow up. I'm impressed. 8 Leopards have not yet been sent. Okay.
Particularly in Eastern Europe, for his statements on Russia's role in a new stability order in Europe, as well as for his stance on not provocating Russia and keeping diplomatic relations with President Putin. However, he has also clearly stated his support for Ukraine's success in the war. Although the office of President Macron did not provide any details regarding the number of vehicles to be delivered or the delivery date, this is a positive development, as it suggests that future Western allies may be more willing to provide Ukraine with advanced military equipment, including Western-designed tanks.
There you go.
On the other hand, President Biden acknowledged that the U.S. is looking into the possibility of sending Bradley vehicles, which could expand the range of weapons provided to Ukraine. Biden approved the supply of Patriot missiles.
Wait, wasn't the U.S. promising the fucking what's it called? The Abrams too? The Czechs have given Leopards though. Oh yeah, dude, Eastern European countries are super supportive of Ukraine. Like they've all been sending a lot of shit to Ukraine. Can you believe that there are, for real, many people thinking that Russia started the war? Isn't it incredible? It's not really that incredible, considering Russia did start the war. Russia literally started the war in 2014, basically. There was political unrest in a neighboring country, and Russia invaded it. The war basically started in 2014 with the annexation of Crimea and the fomenting the insurrection in the Donbass. Ever since 2014, Ukraine has been at war because of Russia. the borders of Ukraine have not been guaranteed or stable. So yeah, and literally Russia initiated it. Nope, the CIA staged what happened in 2014. As Squid Liquor has stopped. I know you're trolling me. Nah, the worst started when USA started putting its hands on Ukraine. It's a lot more complicated than that. No, the 2014 Euromaidan coup was not. There's no evidence that it was organized or sponsored or whatever by the US. What do you say to people saying NATO was encroaching on Russia and Russia's actions were defensive? So I have to concede that I do believe that the Kremlin genuinely believes that there is a security dilemma related to NATO. However, I don't think that justifies Russia's reaction because NATO has no longer been an anti-Russian alliance ever since the end of the Cold War. Basically, it just isn't the NATO. The NATO organization, even the NATO bases in the in Eastern Europe, for example, in the Baltic states and so on and so forth. We're not talking about like if you hear Putin talk about, he makes it sound like people are like the U.S. is putting up nukes pointed at the Kremlin in all around Russia's borders. That's not the case. Those are bases with like 50 to 100 soldiers sitting around. Just doing drills. Those aren't fucking like staging points for an invasion or like actual active military operations. Those are honestly, for the most part, if you look at NATO doctrine post 1990, you have to understand that those bases, the role that they serve is that of being a symbolic commitment in order to force Article 5. So for example, say Russia invades Lithuania. Because there are U.S. soldiers, there's like 20 U.S. soldiers in a base in Lithuania. Now, the U.S., on top of the promise of Article 5, the U.S. also has like soldiers already on the ground committed to the defense of Lithuania. So that symbolic situation adds another level of reassurance and commitment to the solidarity against an attack of NATO's Article 5, which, for those unfamiliar with it, is the article that states that you have to come to aid if another NATO member is being attacked. That is the role of the bases as they exist nowadays. Now, I've had this discussion with Chow, and Chow brought up a very good point, which is that obviously no one can predict the future. In the future, those bases could become staging grounds for attacks, and in expanding defense pacts does actually cause a security dilemma. It's have to throw it out there so Chow doesn't rage out and behind the keyboard. I did listen to him, what he said, and he's right. Expanding those kinds of uncertainty of the future breeds fear. Exactly. All right. Let's see what this guy's saying. Joe Biden's doing with the new deliveries to Ukraine.
System, which is the most advanced ground-based air defense system in the U.S. to Ukraine. In modern warfare, the type of equipment used is crucial. For example, if French Leclerc tanks were to face Russian tanks, it would likely result in a victory for the French and minimal losses for them. However, if a similar force of AMX-10RCs were to face Russian tanks, the French would have a difficulty surviving. While the AMX-10RC, a small and agile six-wheeled armored reconnaissance vehicle with a powerful gun, is not a tank, it will still make a significant contribution to Ukraine's defense. But what do you think? That's all for today. Thank you for watching and see you next time.
Yeah, that's what I like. Just looking at the stats earlier from this video, that's what I was saying earlier. Those tanks they're like glass cannons. They have a big cannon, but they can't survive like a full frontal battle with a T-72. Bye, man. All right, bye. Y'all are. Every single time y'all getting baited by landphobe. Anyways. All right, let me scroll up. I missed some stuff in chat. President Macron went full into the Western deviancy role. What? I don't want mod. I just like researching. Based. Who would want to be mod in this channel? Actually. Yo, Couchman, how are you doing? If you're in a tank battle, you messed up. I would rather not be in a tank battle. That is true. So what I could find on those new Russian units on Wikipedia, outside of Russian forces which have been described as volunteers or unrelated to the Russian government to maintain deniability, various Russian individuals and groups have joined separatist forces in Donbass. These have included Cossacks, the pro-Putin National Liberation Movement, the neo-Nazi Russian National Unity, the National Bolshevik Other Russia Party, and left-wing activists, non-Slavic ethnic minor. Oh, that's like the start of another sentence. Okay. If I was the mod, you would all be banned based on my mood. Nice. The people who want power never deserve it. True. Big true. Okay. So we were discussing, like, you know, Russia being an poor democracy. I never asked for mod, but I could mod it sometimes. the tragedy of getting modded. I wish these folks like Landvo would go and live in Russia for a bit. Hey, maybe they want to. I don't know. Sure does sound like they would enjoy it. We need to help Russia. So you know, Russia is so like good at fighting Nazism and fighting authoritarianism and fascism that they have been they've dismantled the Memorial Human Rights Group, founded in 1989 to remember millions of innocent people persecuted by Soviet repression. So, see, this is why where I was talking about this weird thing where tankies are supporting the like authoritarian nationalist rule of Putin, and Putin knows that, and he's also playing into it. He's playing into the image of a revival of the USSR. So in this case, and I think this is very interesting, he's had people who've been working on the remembrance of the victims of Soviet rule sentenced to 10 years in jail this month. So you have, honestly, this is the modern Molotov-Ribbentrop Act. If I'm gonna do a little bit of presentism. This is the modern Molotov-Ribbentrop Act. You've got the modern day tankies, the modern day the modern day pseudo-socialists defend someone who gives no shit about socialist principles and a government that cares nothing about peaceful and socialist and democratic progress in the world. Can we have an actual cocktail called Molotov-Ribbentrop? That would be sick. So yeah, this oh yeah, and yesterday there were so Mr. Bialysky was sentenced to 10 years in jail this month, and yesterday they raided other ex-members of Memorial. Jan Rashinsky was one of the leaders targeted in Tuesday's raids. When he picked up the Nobel Prize in Oslo last December, he told the BBC the group had been advised by Russian authorities not to go to their Nobel Prize ceremony. And to be fair, the Nobel Prize is political. At Donald Trump and Republicans, I wonder who taught Trump how to gain support. This is one thing I've been saying for a long time. People love to shit on Trump, like, oh, he's so dumb, he's so bad, blah blah blah. If there's one or several things that Trump is really smart at, it's definitely he's a good salesperson, right? That's a big part of how he's become a good, like, a successful entrepreneur. I know successful is relative. There's all those bankruptcies, etc. But he still made a fortune, or well, continued the fortune he inherited, and he's been working it. He is a great rhetorician, exactly, and so of course he was going to be good at politics. Of course he was going to be good at politics. He's a good salesperson. That's the skills are almost the exact same. The CIA started every single event in human history. Yeah. That's a funny thing when you talk to people who are like super pro Russian, or even super pro Ukrainian. That happens on both sides, by the way. The agency of the actual actors of the war gets erased. So I've seen, obviously we've all seen the pro-Russian people say like the CIA did everything, Russia is just reacting, they don't have any agency either. And then you have the on the whole other side of the spectrum, like extreme NAFO Twitter people being like no one except the US is doing anything for Ukraine, and like the US needs to negotiate with Putin. Like that's something I've heard so many times, and I'm like, dude, don't you realize this is a war between Ukraine and Russia? Like, what the fuck do you want Biden to do? Like sitting at a table? Like, what do you think's gonna happen if Biden talks to Putin? Nothing. It has to be Zelensky with Putin. That's the only way you can broker peace. I'm Eastern European, so my bias is strong against Russia, admittedly, but as someone from the region, yes, America helped us defeat Russia. Yeah. And Xi is currently doing it. Yeah, but Xi is brokering peace, right? No, I'm talking about people saying that Biden is responsible for negotiating the peace. I know it's like a slight semantic difference, but it's all the difference in the world between. Of course, Biden should also help broker peace. That's a statement I 100% agree with. I love that Macron has been doing a lot of efforts in that regard, even though he was criticized a lot. I like what Xi has been doing, even though I think it's mostly symbolic and not really practical. I do like that he's been setting himself up for that. But yeah, no, it's different. Russia literally forced a few of the most pacifist countries to join NATO. That's sad. It is. It is. But that is also doing the same agency thing. See, those countries also just chose to go to NATO. If we're talking about like Sweden, I imagine you're talking about Sweden and Finland. You have to understand, Sweden and Finland actually are in military alliances with most European military powers, like France, the UK, Germany, etc., etc. It's not like Sweden and Finland are defenseless the way Ukraine is to foreign invasion. I actually genuinely believe Sweden and Finland don't need to join NATO. They're already under protection. They're already like they already have a lot of multiple treaties that that would have other countries act in their defense. Countries which in turn are allied with the U.S. They aren't directly allied with the U.S. though. Jokes to no, they don't have American protection, and obviously them joining NATO is a higher level of protection. But there is no they want the big one, obviously. Yeah, clearly that's what they want. They do want the big one. They want the biggest change, honestly, with joining NATO is that you're put under the U.S. Nuclear umbrella. That is a huge difference compared to any other nuclear treaties. If you have military treaties. If you have a defense pact with France, France will not use its nukes for you. France's nukes are France's nuclear program is 100% for personal use only. Okay, no one's squeezing any French nukes except the Frenchmen. They love squeezing their nukes. Talking about sucking cocks is not homo. Hey, when they say kiss your homie, no one said where, okay? Oh wait, no, you're responding to something else? Okay. I like squid. I actually I actually used to not like squid because of how the texture, how like rubbery it is. But I've been like opening up my palate to new things over the past couple of years, and like exploring new foods and stuff like that. So I definitely I think I should like taste squid in like a good restaurant. You don't know me like that, bro. I'm sorry. I meant the chatter, but calamari is good too. Yeah, look, Squid. Look, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This is the first time you're in chat. I don't want to make you uncomfortable. I'll eat you out on the second date. Okay. Let's take it slow. Let's take this relationship slow. We no need to.
I'm uncomfortable with that.
I'm sorry. Squid Game, not the kind of game you thought about. Yo, thanks for the follow, Squid Liquor. I appreciate it. Oh shit. Is this what Trainwrecks meant by the hot tub and React industrial complex? Is this what it means to be a hot tub streamer? I promise sexual services and I get follows. Is this the future of my career? Wow. If Kosovo is allowed self-determination, then so are the people of the Donbass. Well, self-determination is an interesting discussion, absolutely. Though in Kosovo, the justification was not so much self-determination as much as it was genocide. Right? There were several groups of there were several multiple military groups that were genociding the Kosovars. That is the reason. That was what justified the intervention. And then the balkanization of the area, which that's where balkanization comes from, splitting up states. Balkanization in the international community was decided in general that balkanization is something we should avoid as much as possible. The only reason it was done in that case was because it was to like protect the Kosovar people against genocide. The Kiev government was attacking the people of the Donbass. No, it was not. The Kiev government was not attacking the people of the Donbass. There was not an active genocide happening in the Donbass. Once Russia instigated and fomented military conflict in the Donbass, yes, then the Donbass people were actively dying on a daily basis, which is absolutely horrible and tragic. But that would not have happened if Russia wasn't stirring shit there in the first place. Oh, funny! You changed the subject. Now you're talking about the Odessa massacre. How funny! Isn't that what you do in every conversation? You just like hop the topic to topic. Like, hey, here's the next talking point. All right. All right. So let me finish this article real quick. Liberal outlets in Russia described the searches as a part of a new crackdown by the authorities on dissent. President Vladimir Putin recently accused the West of seeking to provoke civil unrest by using a fifth column of scum and traitors. Yeah, so this is similar to the worries that with the unrest in Georgia over the past couple of weeks. So if you've been following the protests in Georgia, they were centered around a law being passed that forces organizations to disclose foreign funding. Now, in and of itself, those kinds of laws, I think, are perfectly justifiable and perfectly normal. Most countries actually do have them. It is, however, the worry there is a slippery slope, because in Russia it started with similar kinds of laws. In Russia, it started with disclaimer laws about transparency of foreign funding. It ends with this kind of stuff where organizations are basically being cracked down on and dismantled for being scum and traitors. So Oleg Orlov is being investigated under law introduced days after Russian troops marched into Ukraine last year. The offense of discrediting the military, which has been intentionally vaguely worded in order to be able to arrest multiple people. We have Chinchilla in chat actually tell us the tragic story of someone he knows in Russia whose relative denounced the fact that they criticized the war and they almost got arrested, sent to prison. And one of the reasons, now this obviously is political. This is taking out political adversaries in the Russian media scene and political scene. When it comes to normal people being denounced and being sent to prison over this, there is a very, very simple calculation there, which is that Russia forces people in prison to conscript into the military. It is since the conscription has caused massive unrest in Russia and it's been massively unpopular. the way around it seems to be to just have anyone who opposes the war get arrested and conscripted. I think it's wasn't the Odessa fire caused by Molotov cocktails thrown by the pro-Russians at the entrance of the building, which left them trapped? I think it's explained in here. I don't know about this video. How to win a war by gaslighting.
So let me be clear on...
What is this? Allegedly Karl Rove in 2004. Guys like you are in what we call the reality-based community. You believe that solutions emerge from your judicious study of discernible reality. That's not the way the world really works anymore. We're an empire now, and when we act, we create our own reality. And while you're studying that reality, judiciously as you will, we'll act again, creating other new realities, which you can study too, and that's how things will sort out. We are history's actors, and you, all of you, will be left to just study what we do. Oh, this is an interesting quote. I don't know if this is real, but this is an interesting quote because it's very wordy, but this is kind of describing what has been Putin's strategy domestically and abroad for years now. It has been to be the actor of what is reality. And it's true. It's also what Trump has done domestically for his campaign. You can analyze a lot of political action through this lens. It's about being able to set the tone, set the narrative, set the reality. And then the second it no longer fits you, you move on, set a different reality, set another narrative, set another topic. As long as you're the trendsetter, you're the topic setter, you're in control. Even if it's against you, even if you create stuff that's against you, you're still in control of the narrative. That's how people like Andrew Tate have success. That's how Destiny has had success as well. People stir shit in inflammatory ways and still keep on growing and growing audiences, growing power, growing influence through that. And it's literally just this process that's described in this quote. This is interesting.
Where things stand today. First, conflict is not inevitable. There is still time and space for diplomacy. The United States, in lockstep with our allies and partners, has offered Russia a path away from crisis and toward greater security.
The weird thing about the reaction to the build-up for this current war wasn't so much the skepticism that it was going to happen. There were lots of good reasons to be skeptical. Really, it was the obnoxiously smug but weirdly angry and aggrieved way in which all that skepticism was expressed. I mean, in this instance, America wasn't really asking anyone to take their word for it. Their analysis was based on satellite photography that everyone had access to. You could simply look up the photos yourself and be like, yep, that's a bunch of tanks parked on the border. Yep, that's a bunch of landing ships from the Baltic Fleet suddenly traveling through the Bosphorus. If this was a bluff, it was the most elaborate bluff in the history of warfare. And yet...
What is the evidence that they... I mean, this is like crisis actors, really? This is like Alex Jones territory you're getting.
In Washington, the territorial integrity of the United States means...
Okay, I want to see the Hassan clip. That's what I want to see in this compilation of people denying the invasion's going to happen. I want to see the Hassan clip.
Walls are racist. We're a nation of immigrants. But the territorial integrity of Ukraine, that is something we must fight for.
What we know, Matt, is what I've just said, that they have engaged in this activity, in this planning activity. But let me because obviously,
you know, like they have, like remember when Colin Powell held up their thing? They have sarin gas. They have these chemicals.
Hitler invaded countries based on Germanic.
There you go.
Yeah, dude.
I knew it.
Fucking throwing Ukrainians in a fucking. What are you talking about? Talk to me when he's throwing Ukrainians in a concentration camp, okay? Hitler wasn't fucking bad because he decided to invade Austria. He was bad because he was fucking killing Jews.
Oh god, it's the best Hassan clip too. Oh, the one where Hitler wasn't bad for invading Austria. Oh god, that was the best one.
Okay, that was the problem. He wasn't like, oh yeah, we're gonna fucking annex territory with like Germanic people in it. That wasn't the main problem with Hitler, I think.
This is not skepticism. This is an emotional investment in defending a much larger worldview. Sometimes you see people blaming this on the far left, or tankies, quote unquote, or sometimes you see people
Caleb Maupin, yeah.
as a matter of horseshoe theory, blaming the far left and the far right.
None of us give a damn about Ukraine.
Oh yeah, that photo behind there, it only showed really quickly. That was Marine Le Pen shaking Putin's hand. Probably one of the big, this photo was probably honestly a big part of why she wasn't able to win the last presidential election. Because it was fucking close. And the war was fresh in everyone's minds. Godwin point is hard here, yeah. Do I agree with that or not? No, I don't agree. Obviously, the Holocaust, the genocide is much worse than genocide is much worse than violating border sovereignty. But violating border sovereignty is still bad. No, I did not block Landphobe. No. Yo, Aaron, how are you doing? Welcome to the stream. Remember the Holodomor?
Remember the Holodomor? Do you even know what it was?
But look at who is actually peddling this story. One of the big pushers of Russian propaganda was Nation magazine, which has never been particularly radical. Matt Taibbi is a centrist left liberal. Peter Hitchens is center-right. I don't think The Guardian is anyone's idea of revolutionaries. And Glenn Greenwald is whatever Glenn Greenwald is.
Yeah, no one fucking knows what Glenn Greenwald identifies as, actually. But is it historically bad? When you say Hitler, are you thinking he moved troops or that he's a Nazi? Like, obviously, we focus on the... and they're actually indissociable, right? Hitler was, like, him being Nazi was really bad. And obviously, even if he hadn't invaded any other country, he still would have caused the genocide of Jews, Roma people, homosexuals, etc., in Germany. So it would have still been a horrible tragedy. But we also know him as the guy who tore Europe apart through war. I'm just saying, if Hitler is bad for invading Poland, isn't every country at war bad? It depends on the justification. I do think there is some justification. There are niche justifications for war. I don't think Hitler had any justifiable reasons for invading Austria or Poland. But there can be justification for war if you're... the humanitarian justifications are rough, but I think in an extreme case, like say so imagine Hitler doesn't invade anyone, doesn't annex anyone, and he just starts fucking murdering all the Jews, all the Romani people, all the homosexuals, etc. That's a tough one. Like there is a justification there to step in and stop what's going on if you think you have the capability to do so. Though you would have to weigh the consequences of that, obviously. Hey everybody, hey Peter Parker, you're from Munich. No, you're from New York, Peter Parker. You're Spider-Man. How are you doing? Welcome to the stream. Hope you enjoy it. But, so I don't think every country at war is necessarily bad. I think there can be justifications for war. Obviously, fighting a defensive war is justified as well. And certain niche cases could... Your fränkisches Newohnung, Peter Parker, yeah. And certain... there could be certain justifications for, like, stepping into another country, though it would have to be kind of a case-by-case basis. And you would have to weigh the consequences, which would be, for more often than not, impossible to predict, honestly. It's that's not an easy one, for sure.
Pan-ideological phenomenon, and it's a relatively recent one. You didn't see this even as late as 2012. It all started in 2014, with Russia's decision to invade the southeast of Ukraine, also known as the Donbass.
Based. Yes, let's go. Another... Dude, I love it. I love it that we're leaving this narrative that the war started in 2022. I'm so glad that there are more, like, analysts of the situation that understand the war started in 2014.
After Crimea, the political divide in Ukraine started to shift from a linguistic or regional divide into a generation gap among Russian speakers, because young people were getting their news about the Maidan from their friends or the internet. whereas older people were getting it from Russian language cable news. And according to Russian cable news, the Maidan was the start of a neo-Nazi anti-Russian genocide. In reality, the new government was mostly made up of members from Yulia Tymoshenko's party, with Yulia's longtime second-in-command, Alexander Turchinov, as president. And
to be fair, I have to grant one thing, is that the interim government post Maidan actually did have quite a few far-right neo-Nazi members. They were evicted very, very quickly. I think they lasted 2 months max, if I recall correctly. But there was a problem with the interim government that was created right after Maidan. They didn't have any time to do anything. They were kicked out right away. But there was definitely a bit of a weird situation there. And the people who protested in Maidan were not happy with that. It's not like the Maidan supporters were Nazis. They saw what happened with the government and they were not okay with it. It's why, which is also why there was like popular pressure to kick those people out of the fucking government. It set a bad precedent. It did, and like it didn't matter. It's not like those people had actual political power and they got kicked out very fast. But now you get a bunch of people being wise asses about how Ukraine's Nazi when they have like 1% of the parliament that's far right.
The young technocrat Arseny Yatsenyuk is prime minister. But it didn't really matter how innocuous the new regime was, since they were still appointed rather than elected in the aftermath of a dubious impeachment process. So their promises to address Russian speakers...
Well, this as well, dubious. It was a coup, it was a revolution, it was illegal. You can call it in different ways. But dubious is a bit... is kind of like not disclosing the reality, which is that the constitutional requirements for impeachment were not met, actually. There are more Nazis in Russia than in Ukraine, to my knowledge. That is almost certainly true, if for no other reason than just pure demographics. Russia has a lot more people living there than Ukraine. But yeah, Wagner is definitely very strongly Nazi influenced or like fascist influenced. I would rather call them fascist, I'd rather call Wagner fascist in the sense of they are representative of a lot of what like pro-Russian fascism would look like. Very nationalistic, very strong, but it's not that they necessarily like inherited Nazi ideology. There are people with swastika tattoos in Wagner, yes. The founder was a neo-Nazi, yes. Hey, Frenchy Fury, the furious Frenchman. As a Frenchman, I agree with Russia. What is it that you agree with Russia on?
Concerns mostly fell on deaf ears. This was in part because increasingly Russia was aiding the anti-government protests by paying people to show up and busing people in from across the border. And so the former Maidan protesters, scared that the protest might be a front for a new Russian invasion, became counter-protesters. So instead of bringing a new dawn, the revolution of dignity at first just brought more street fights. This time with police on the sideline, while liberals and ultranationalists fought paid thugs and pensioner cable news junkies, fighting not over any actual policy, but rather over completely hypothetical ones. And the Western media was generally happy to repeat Russia's story about this being a spontaneous, natural, ethnic...
Jesus, fuck. This guy with a handgun in the middle of a riot. God, I would not like to be there. Russia is super Nazi. The name Wagner comes from... Oh, yeah, we know the Wagner, what Wagner means, yeah. January 6th vibes, yeah, a little bit.
So much. As the general pointed out, they don't really need to go into this area because it's so heavily Russian anyway. It's a problem for Western Ukraine. The Russians don't have to go in.
Namely because that's how it worked in the Balkans, and that was the last time the Western media paid any serious attention to Eastern Europe. Why change paradigms now? In other words, mainland Ukraine looked like a juicy target. But this was not enough to spiral into a civil war, so Russia realized Ukraine was going to need another push. And for the purposes of plausible deniability, they would have to outsource it to a quasi-state actor. So a plan was hatched. Russia organized what was once known in 19th century America as a filibuster, picking volunteers from the Crimean invasion force who were willing to sneak into Donetsk without any government proviso. But what kind of person would volunteer to lead this kind of unit? Igor Strelkov-Girkin was a group
Igor Girkin.
in Transnistria.
I actually follow him on Twitter. Azov had an SS patch. Yes, Azov absolutely was founded by around like neo-Nazi ideology. No one's denying that. But Ukrainian identity is not based on aligning with Nazis. That is delusional. It's Little Greenman time. Yes, it is. Do not come. Yo, thanks for the follow, Frenchy Fury. J'apprécie beaucoup. Même si je dois te prévenir, je suis plutôt pro-Ukraine. Bien sûr, tu as le droit d'exprimer ton opinion, etc., etc. C'est un lieu de... You're free to express your opinion and all that stuff, but yeah. If you're like, let me move this over here. Ukrainian identity is also not Russian. Well, let's see.
Fought with the Bosnian Serbs in Visegrad, did wet work in both Chechen wars, and fought in the invasion of Georgia. A big supporter of the movement to reinstate the Tsar and turn Russia back into an absolute monarchy that would rule over all the territory of the former Soviet Union, he got a job as a security official for the billionaire funder of the Russian monarchist movement. It was that billionaire who helped finance his mission to take over Ukraine.
Dude literally like went to see his barber, and was like, he came with like one of those with one of those old paintings of the Tsar, and was like, this is my look. This is what I want to look like. Do me like that, bro. He actually looks like if you put one of those, yeah, make me Nicholas too. And the barber's like, I got you, fam. I got you 100%.
Girkin is also an avid war memorabilia collector and historical reenactor for the Russian Civil War. On the white side, of course. Much of what we know about the 2014 invasion of Ukraine comes from his decision to live vlog it on a web forum for enthusiasts of military antiques. The plan he hatched was elegant, if not exactly simple. The trained special forces would launch a pre-dawn raid on important targets in the cities of the Donbass. They would shoot it out with whoever was guarding the building, either kick out the defenders or hold them hostage, and then invite local compradors who would pretend that they had taken over the building all by themselves, just in time for the journalists to show up a few hours later in the morning. After a few days of chaos caused by the takeovers, during which everyone in eastern Ukraine would go over to Russia's side, it was assumed, Russia could then send in its army and bloodlessly annex the south and east.
Yeah, they definitely wanted to do the same stuff like with Crimea, get the bloodless annexation going. So Donbass was taken by cosplayers, always has been, yeah. This stuff is pretty much true. Je ne m'attendais pas à vous voir parler français, je suis admiratif. I've lived in France since I was 5 years old, actually, Frenchy Fury, so it's not not that big of a deal. Will you get the same beard? Oh, I wish I could grow like such a majestic beard. Honestly, don't break the Strotsky cosplay. True. As a Polish person who knows about Volyn, I support Ukraine against Russia. Yeah. I don't know exactly what Volyn is, but from context, I'm assuming you're talking about the massacre of Polish people by the Banderistas in World War II, right? Is that what you're referring to? Yeah, the massacres of Volyn. Hey, this is about the movie, but yeah, yep, that's that. It's exactly that. Yeah, and guess what? Most Polish people support Ukraine despite the history. Absolutely, that is true.
Less organized local groups also captured individual buildings in the big cities like Donetsk and Mariupol, but since they weren't well armed, they were mostly just ignored, and life continued as normal while everyone waited for some kind of negotiated solution. Girkin, on the other hand, had captured an entire town, a more remote town in the west called Slavyansk. This wouldn't be an important distinction if Russia had just invaded, but instead the Russian army just massed at the border and waited. And waited. The Ukrainian army waited too, both because they were barely functioning and because they were worried a crackdown would provoke a Russian invasion. This created a problem for Slavyansk, because the town was now under the control of a company of men with no authorization, no experience in governance, no preparation, and no real organization. In other words, Slavyansk had been put under martial law by a military with no chain of command. Or if you prefer, one of the first things Girkin did was put in place a people's mayor.
They've now appointed their own mayor, Vyacheslav Ponomaryov, a former soldier in the Soviet army. The town.
What's that guy's sweater?
Of a former soldier.
Dutch warrior, this ain't your daddy's fighting boat. No, Dutch harbor.
The town's elected mayor hasn't been seen in public since Friday.
The real mayor had been locked in a basement. The first order of the people's mayor, the pogrom against the local Roma population.
Они в масках были, человек 15, а у них автомат, с автоматом. У кого автомат, у кого пистолет, начали простреливать.
Ah, yes. The one thing everyone in Eastern Europe can agree on. Massacring Roma people. Beautiful.
Ну, страх нагонять. Золото, деньги просили.
Then he put out a warning telling people to report any suspicious activity. Activity like speaking Ukrainian. People started disappearing at checkpoints, including journalists and international observers. Some, like the journalist, eventually got released. Others, like an opposition city councilor, were discovered in the local river, disemboweled and bearing signs of torture. This outrage...
Eastern question mark? No, true. That's just a European thing. You're right, Pandart.
Eastern Ukraine. But no one in the occupied cities heard about it. The first thing the Russians did in every place they took over was to go after the TV antennas. And so a sort of photon curtain fell between the East and the West, each side living in different realities created by different television diets. So when Ukraine sent in troops, people on the Ukrainian side saw the Russians as having escalated first, and people in the occupied territory saw the Ukrainians as escalating first. And that difference in perception would become increasingly important. The Russian incursion in the east didn't interrupt...
Photon curtain's new iron curtain. It's my first time hearing that expression, but I like it. It's good to have like terms for specific concepts, and this complete disconnect in perceived reality that you have. Like, you even see it in chat, right? Between like what Landphobe thinks is reality and what we think is reality. It's insane. Like there's no communication possible. There is so much insanity between the two viewpoints. Land is trolling. I do say y'all were taking the bait, but just because he's baiting doesn't mean I do think he genuinely believes his own bullshit. Photon curtain is also a cool weapon the Protoss and StarCraft could use. True. I wonder what the geopolitical situation would be if the Berlin Wall never came down. Well, we would still be in... Nah. I think the Soviet states were bound to fail at that point, though. Even if the Berlin Wall hadn't fallen, right? That was like a symbolic moment that crystallized the downfall of the Soviet Empire, but it wasn't really... Like, economically and socially, there were a lot of other like macroscopic forces at play that were leading the decline of the USSR and its satellites. We would have a unified Germany with a full wall that serves no purpose. Yeah, exactly. He may believe it, but he isn't trying to convince anyone. He just likes seeing people argue and feeling like he riles up the chat. Yeah. Which honestly, like, makes me kind of want to ban him again, because it's like, it's funny for 5 minutes, but if that's all like all chat is, it's kind of shitty.
Fighting in Western Ukraine, and in Odessa, these clashes escalated to a gun battle that killed 6 pro-Ukraine protesters. The pro-Ukraine side retaliated by marching to the pro-Russian camp.
I wish you could wake up and see that that no one's supporting Ukrainian Nazis. No one who is pro-Ukraine is supporting Ukrainian Nazis. That's a straw man that you tell yourself so you can feel superior to the people you disagree with. Like you can't even have a dialogue if your only goal is to feel superior to other people by saying they support Nazis when they aren't. And Nazis are part of the Russian government military, but Nazis aren't part of the Ukrainian state, by the way. That's just patently wrong. The Ukrainian state does not have Nazis within it. No. Beautiful counter-argument.
To burn it down. The pro-Russian side barricaded themselves into the building next door, and the two groups began shooting and throwing Molotov cocktails at each other. The resulting fire killed 42 people. The fire had been a genuine freak accident. A small fire on the front door barricade spread to the main hallway, where, unbeknownst to almost everyone, there was a generator with a full fuel tank. When that tank caught fire, it formed a massive fireball that instantly killed the 40 or so.
Oh, so this is the fire. This is the fire thing you were talking about. So the person who linked me this video was talking about the was talking about the fire stuff in the that caused the death of a lot of people during the Maidan protests. Dude, dude. Ukrainian Duma. Yo, thanks for the follow, Lego Pizza Man 54. What a sick name. You have the best name on Twitch ever. Lego Pizza Man. Yes, Svoboda is indeed a neo-Nazi party. Let's see how many seats they have, huh? In the last elections. Svoboda. They had... Wait, what is... Oh, yeah, there you go. Svoboda got 2.15% of the votes. Nice. Truly the peak of Nazis controlling a government. 2.15% of the parliament. Why do Nazis have any seats? Oh my god. Now you're just being really fucking stupid. So the war is still going on. I heard that Putin would be kicked out of office for, war crimes, etc. No. So there is a court that convicted him for war crimes, but obviously the court doesn't have the power to show up in the Kremlin and actually arrest him. The court doesn't have that power. I don't know if you're being facetious, maybe joking about it or whatnot, but in case you're serious, yeah, no, the convicting him of war crimes is pointless, since you actually have to, arrest him if you want anything to happen. Though the ICC International Special Force would be based, I don't know. Wasn't it? Wait, wasn't it the U.S.? Fuck, I remember this meme where the U.S. said that if the ICC was starting to arrest American soldiers suspected of war crimes in Iraq or Afghanistan, that the U.S. would have jurisdiction to take over the Netherlands. I vaguely remember this, but it's some kind of meme like that, which would be hilarious. The International Court just issued a warrant. They haven't convicted him yet. Oh, it's just the warrant. Sorry, my bad. Don't want to do this info. I'd argue we have Nazis in our House of Representatives in the U.S. Yeah, and we literally have 8% of Nazis here in France in the parliament, right? France, Assemblée Nationale. Wait, I just want to see the results of the last elections. So the Zemmour's party, I would argue, is the modern incarnation of neo-Nazism. Much more so than Marine Le Pen's party, actually, at this point. Tajikistan and South Africa are signed onto the ICC, and Putin wants to travel there. Oh no! Do they have an extradition treaty? No way. Okay, last. Let's just look directly at the election results. How much did Zemmour's party get? I forgot. I actually forgot his name. I'm so sorry. I mean his party's name. Reconquête. There you go. Or did they just ally with the Rassemblement National? But there's definitely Nazis also in the Rassemblement National, or like neo-Nazis. Sorry, let's use the right words. But the Rassemblement National has become this like weird like post-Nazi far right ideology thing, which like it's hard to pin them down exactly nowadays. What do I think about the Victoria Nuland's leaked conversation with Ukraine? So if you actually listen to Victoria Nuland's the conversation about Ukraine, Frenchy Fury, like what I try to tell people, because I listened to the whole conversation, right? And what I hear in the conversation is I hear a diplomat doing their job, right? So if you have, imagine you're the U.S. diplomat in Ukraine or charged with the foreign affairs with Ukraine. And there is a revolution in Ukraine. And so someone calls you and you're like, yes, I think this political leader would be better. I don't trust this guy. I don't like this guy. But this guy has a lot of experience. He's good, which, you know, is pretty much what the conversation goes like. That is the normal conversation you would have, even if you have no influence on the revolution itself. You would still discuss like who do you think is going to come into power, who you like, who you can work with, who you can't work with. So nothing in Victoria Nuland's conversation is actually strange. Nothing in Victoria Nuland's conversation amounts to admitting, like, hey, yeah, we are putting this guy into power. What she's saying is, I would like this guy to be in power, which I think is a normal thing for a diplomat to like send back to the main country when you're having the discussion concerning the changes in the country. Zemmour is the controlled opposition. I think Zemmour really believes in his project. I don't think he's a puppet in that sense. I think Zemmour is an ideologue, and he 100% believes in what he talks about. Stop using logic, Oyoyo. I'm sorry. Landfo, I'm not saying they're interfering. I'm saying the phone call is literally commenting on what's going on if you actually listen to it. Oh my god, you're so facetious. D'accord, merci de votre réponse. Pas de souci. Yes, in writing they say they agree to arrest anyone with a warrant, but they might just not follow. That it would be interesting if Putin dared and to see what would happen. They would probably not arrest Putin, I imagine. With the Nuland phone call, she says to advise the protesters to accept the Yanukovych deal, so you can't accuse her of anything but being pro-Russian in the phone call. Oh, that part. Wait, is because I only listened to the part that people use to accuse her of interfering. I don't remember that part's the part where she says to accept the Yanukovych deal is not a part I actually listened to. That's hilarious. Wait, that's amazing, Aaron. Thank you for telling me that. So has anyone really commented on China being a deliberate aid to Russia? I mean, we've discussed it, but China is in this weird position as well, where they're like semi-neutral, but also semi-actually. Well, they are allies to Russia. They're officially allied. They've signed contracts together and pacts. But at the same time, China, as far as Ukraine is concerned, is neutral, honestly. China, and right now, Beijing wants to broker peace, actually. Honestly, Russia is a borderline Chinese puppet state. Don't add me. Whoops, I added you. No, I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't go that far. I don't think so. All right, I missed a bunch of messages in chat. Hope you don't. If you really wanted me to like read something, like post it again in chat, and I'll read it. Let's keep watching the video though.
No one knew any of that at the time. so the Russian media had a field day.
Women and children hid in the trade union's building. First, the armed men set fire to tents, then started throwing Molotov cocktails and grenades at the building. We heard shots fired, saw thick smoke.
There were about 50 of us on the roof, men and women. The right sector was blocking the streets. We looked down at what was happening around us and thought they wouldn't let us out alive. People from other floors were brought down, and the extremists attacked them like a pack of wolves.
At the same time, there were shots from behind the backs of the security forces. Someone was firing a machine gun. We have the empty shells to prove it.
It's all about resources. The oligarchs are behind the scenes, and the fascists are on the front line, and they're just trying to destabilize it and take over resources. We know who's all behind this, and it's the Mossad and the CIA.
I don't really like watching this simply because I haven't done a lot of research into the specifics of the Maidan protest and all of the like conspiracy theories around them. So I feel like I can't really push back against this because like earlier in this video when this guy was talking about the what was it, the like some of the politics leading up to Maidan, that stuff I have researched, and this guy like was technically correct for the most part, but also was always was like skewing or omitting information in a very pro-Ukrainian way. So I want to be a little bit skeptical here because of how imperative, how categorical his presentation of the information is, just because of what like the earlier stuff was in the video where I was like, well, no, actually, what happened was like when he said like there was no Nazis in the interim post revolution government. Well, technically there were several of them in important posts. It's just they were kicked out very fast, and like. Sure, the sentiment is the same, right? Those Nazis never had real political power, but it's important I believe it's important to have those technicalities nailed down, because like skeptics will look at that and dismiss your information on the basis of you giving false information if you're omitting like important details like that. If I was on the fence, if I didn't know, if I was like, I don't know if I support Russia or Ukraine, I don't want to support Nazis, I'm not sure what's actually happening, and then I see this guy saying something and then I discover it's false, even if it was close to the truth, I would probably be pushed the other way. So I think it's a bit irresponsible to like omit information the way this guy's been doing in this video.
In the British MI6, it's not kidding.
Or at least in the parts that I have some level of expertise on.
The fire calmed things down, as everyone took it as a sign they needed to de-escalate. In the east, the fire was used to convince a large sector of the population that the conflict was existential. So Ukraine turned its attention to the coming presidential election on May 25th, and the separatists began a massive recruitment drive. And not just locals. The neo-Nazi party Russian National Unity formed a legion, the National Bolshevik Party formed a militia, a Chechen militia called the Vostok Battalion was sent, and even people from the West sucked in by Russian media joined in. Left-wing Spaniards joined and formed an anti-fascist battalion, where they fought side by side with American and Swedish neo-Nazis. People calling themselves the Don Cossacks, people calling themselves the Russian Orthodox Army, and an Orthodox Christian Stalinist biker gang called the Night Wolves.
Oh, this is what you're talking about, the Orthodox biker gang. Oh, shit. Oh, shit, there we go. Oh, no. Man, American bikers ain't got nothing on those guys. Gotta grant them that. What you're doing? You're like smuggling meth across state lines. Those guys are fucking fighting the Ukraine army. Personally, I think the majority of Nazis died in Mariupol. The Azov battalion Nazis, most of them probably died in Mariupol. Even leading up that situation, the Azov battalion had been reformed and reworked. Not that the Nazis weren't still fighting or the neo-Nazis, sorry, weren't still fighting in the Azov battalion, but the leadership was kind of taken away from the neo-Nazi ideologues. In fact, if you look at the history since 2014, for example, originally when the U.S. started sending military aid to the Ukraine army, I think if I recall correctly, in 2016. Or maybe it started in 2014, but basically there was a moment when the U.S. started sending military aid to Ukraine, and like 2 years later, the U.S. actually added a clause to the contract it had with Ukraine. The House of Representatives voted in that that Ukraine was no longer allowed to give the weapons that the U.S. was sending to the Azov Battalion or to other neo-Nazi groups that were fighting for Ukraine. So there was actual foreign pressure, political pressure against Ukraine to clean up the neo-Nazi shit. Since like 2018 or 2016, I don't remember the exact year. Well, one of those two, either 2018 or 2016. New streamer outfit, going for the Sam Harris vibe. Yeah, I'm trying something new. I'm trying something different. See if it works. See if I get some more, clout, credibility, whatever you want to call it. I personally was joking that I'm going for the Nick Fuentes strategy. The blazer and the shirt. I associate that with Nick Fuentes, honestly. Now I just need the green screen with the pseudo like news background. I recall reading early in the invasion that Azov was obliterated, then they reappeared in Mariupol. I guess they suffered losses and replenished with the defensive impetus. Yeah. And, well, one of the saddest things in all of this is that if you look at the history of any country that's under existential threat, nationalist sentiment will rise like crazy. And even movements that we believe are like objectively good, if you actually look closely at them, they are founded upon strong tenets of nationalism. For example, Gandhi's independence movement in India was a very nationalist movement. And the reason I'm pointing this out is because now that Ukraine is being attacked is under an existential threat, like neo-Nazi ideologues have the best breeding ground they could ever dream of. Even though Russia's goal supposedly was to denazify Ukraine, clearly that was not the goal. That is just propaganda. But officially, the goal was to denazify Ukraine. Well, the effect is that if I was a neo-Nazi or a fascist or an ultranationalist in Ukraine right now, I would be having a field day. I would be recruiting like crazy. I think I would have a lot of young people listen to my words without any problems that would never have listened to me otherwise. Or older people as well, like no matter their age. Yeah, Russia directly creating more Nazis, yeah. But then again, like I never believed for a single second that was Russia's goal. Russia's goal was realpolitik. Russia's goal was a sphere of influence. Russia's goal was a buffer state between itself and Western Europe. Russia's goal was resources, for oil and petrol off the coast of Crimea, rare earths in the Donbass. The fact that Ukraine is basically the breadbasket of a huge part of the world. It's so ridiculous. Yeah, it is ridiculous to send in a Wagner group to denazify, yeah. I suppose the center and the government taking the defensive nationalist talking points in a tame way would deny ultranationalists that breeding ground, since they usually thrive in frustration. It's true, and Zelensky has been good. I don't know what the sentiment is on the ground, but it seems like Zelensky has been good with that, in the sense that he's definitely been taking on the... Zelensky's definitely taken on the nationalist talking points of a country under attack. But what I'm worried about is that, sure, right now, the people who want to defend the country, they can coalesce around Zelensky. But it's still like it's still like pushing the Overton window towards acceptance of ultranationalism. There is a little bit of a like playing with fire there. You see it very often in countries that have come out of existential crisis, of war and things like that. Those countries usually tend to go towards very authoritarian and honestly dangerous leaders. Here in France, we had Charles de Gaulle right after World War II, because he was a hero of the resistance. He was a hero of World War II and of French independence. But if you actually look at what kind of political leader he was as close to authoritarian as he could be, while still respecting the democratic parts of the Fifth Republic. Like even right now, the issues with the retirement reform in France, caused by the fact that there is this law that allows the executive branch to force a law through Parliament. That is something that goes back to Charles de Gaulle. That's something he added to the Fifth Republic Constitution government specifically because he wanted the government to be strong and stable against changes of opinion in the public. He wanted the government to be less democratic, literally, in the sense that it would be less prey to the popular vote, so that the government could actually take unpopular measures, which is an understandable goal, but it's definitely a very specific, it's a strongman approach. But Ukraine wants to join the EU. That's a clear destination. So maybe they won't go full authoritarian after the war. Hopefully not. We will see. But it's something we've also seen in Eastern Europe, which is something that's worrying to me, is a lot of Eastern European countries tend to kind of waffle between more or less authoritarian versions of democracy, where, like Hungary, for example, when Hungary joined the EU, Hungary looked like a great candidate. But nowadays, under what's his name, Orban, under Orban, Hungary would not be eligible to join the EU. Honestly, even Poland if Poland was not a member of the EU right now under the Peace Party, if Poland was applying to join the EU right now, I think they would actually not be able to. They would have to reform a lot of their laws that were considered anti-democratic, introduced by the Peace Party. I like the... Okay, so Jokes is responding to what I was saying about what Charles de Gaulle introduced in the Fifth Republic, the 49.3 law. It hard stabilizes the union, just like red and blue states. I actually have been thinking more and more about Jokesta, like today, and the more I think about it, and that's also why I was reading about the history of this law today and doing some research on it, I actually agree with you, Jokes, more and more. Like, the more I think about it, the more I think, for the most part, there are a lot of things I disagree with Macron on. I actually think that this is not a bad, it's not a bad move. Yo, chat, it's happening, yeah. In my pro-Russian circle on Twitter, there are many people who think that the Russian army is not gaining ground because the Ukrainian army hides a lot behind civilians. What do you think? Some of it is definitely true. I've stopped following like the play-by-play level of the war, like video footage and very specific stuff. But it's definitely something that's happened regularly. When I was following the war closely, which was the Ukrainian military, installing themselves in or near civilian structures. To be fair, the Russian military also does that. Though, usually what happens is it's like the Ukrainians are fighting a defensive war, mostly in the cities. So they're defending the cities, so obviously they're next to civilian targets. There are some exceptions to that. Things that, like, I've seen footage of, like, things that are clearly really just, like, hiding behind the civilian target. I don't know that it's prevalent, though. I don't think that's the reason the Russian army is not gaining ground. The reason the Russian army and the Russian army is gaining ground, by the way, just very slowly. The reason the Russian army is not gaining ground quick is because it's a very difficult war. It's hard to invade a country, especially if it's well armed, like in this case by NATO members, and if popular sentiment is against you. The Ukrainians don't want to be invaded. The Ukrainian military is very motivated. Those people are willing to fight. They're not being conscripted. They're not being forced to die. They believe in their cause, and they believe they're fighting for a good cause. And I think that plus equipment is a very, very, very scary adversary, especially when you're looking at urban warfare, which is like not hiding behind civilians. It's literally Russia is attacking civilian targets like cities. And cities are hard to invade. There is every window can be hiding a soldier. Every window can be hiding someone with a rocket. Every corner could be hiding a tank or a vehicle, or et cetera, et cetera. So, of course, it's going to be slow. The Russian army is not in good shape due to corruption. Well, there's also the corruption problem, yeah. Though I imagine my understanding is that the Russian army was started off on a really bad foot because of corruption, but right now they've probably cleaned up most of it, because the eye of the Kremlin. Think of it like the eye of Sauron, okay? Like the eye of Sauron. If it's not looking at it, then sure, like the orcs are just fucking around and they're and they're like doing whatever. But if the eye of Sauron is actually looking there, they're gonna do what they're supposed to do. And right now, like one thing we cannot deny is that the Kremlin is looking at its military very closely. So I think we can talk about corruption leading up to the war, corruption leading up to the poor maintenance of their military capabilities, their arsenal, their military-industrial complex, etc., etc. But I doubt we can talk about corruption specifically now. Though I'm just speculating. I don't have data for or against this concept. Wait, so did Tolkien make a commentary on the flaws of centralized power led by a single strong figure? I wouldn't go that far. I think Tolkien wanted to write an epic new mythology for the contemporary world, and he didn't actually have like necessary political sentiment within it. But yeah, where there's a weapon, where there's a whip, there's a way. There's a whip. Yeah, what a banger song. Russia isn't gaining ground because most of their forces can't do anything but World War I style assaults, and they're too scared to use their good troops because they have lost so many of them. That's one way of looking at it, sure. I'm interested in seeing what new tactics, because a couple of months ago there was a big change in the leadership of the military, and a lot of analysts have speculated that change was leading up to a change in strategy. So I need to do like a deep dive and research what's changed since then. I don't know really what the strategy on the ground is right now, honestly. Elf purity and dwarf are just robots. What? Okay.
In May, Ukraine elected a new president, Petro Poroshenko. Now, with more legitimacy, the Ukrainian government felt confident enough to try and take back the east by force. But since the separatists had an unlimited supply of captured anti-tank missiles and captured anti-air missiles, the battle would be slow and heavy on artillery, and fought mostly by volunteers with a few weeks, if any, military training. Volunteers that would later consequently include neo-Nazis. But Ukraine had air power, and while the separatists were occasionally refreshed with more volunteers from Russia, the wave of local volunteers swept up by pro-Russia sentiment never materialized. Girkin couldn't hold on to Slavyansk, and so he delivered an ultimatum to the Kremlin. Send help. Real help, as in an army.
Girkin's story is very interesting overall, in that Girkin has been central in helping Russia create the current situation. And in many ways, it seems like he's pretty much been abandoned by the Kremlin. Nowadays, since the invasion, he's become, well, redundant, useless, I guess. There's also this disadvantage of a dictatorship that people who are in high military positions like Shoigu or Gerasimov, they don't have those positions because of their brilliance or skills. They hold these positions because they are loyal to the Kremlin. Well, yeah, that's one of the typical downfalls of the big like authoritarian systems. It's very little, if any, meritocracy. Girkin pulled the trigger, according to him. Yeah, he did. He honestly, in many ways, he did. Yeah. No, I wouldn't go so far as to say like he's the only actor with agency in that, obviously, but he played a central part in it. Sure, he baited them. Yeah. I think the cliff notes of that change in leadership is Surovikin was a decent commander, but Gerasimov is closer to Putin. That was my impression as well, reading articles. But now I want to see like what are the consequences of that on the ground, if you catch my drift. Because in the lore, pure elves are valuable. Dwarves are just meant to be used after Dagorath to rebuild the world. Oh yeah, and I know that like Tolkien exchanged letters with like Nazis. And Nazis back then sent letters to Tolkien and were like, "Oh yeah, the elves are Aryans. Your book is so cool. I really identify with." And Tolkien wrote them back like, "Dude, fuck off. I'm not. This is not Nazi propaganda. This is not what I wrote the book about." He said in like a really polite way too. But the correspondence between Tolkien and Nazis is actually really interesting. Girkin kind of reminds me of Napoleon Dynamite. Really. C'est vraiment sympa vos débats. Vous faites beaucoup de streams parce que je serai là. Oui. Je stream presque tous les soirs en semaine. Rarement le week-end. Le week-end, je préfère voilà, me relaxer, faire des trucs. Juste exceptionnellement, là, jeudi, c'est l'anniversaire de ma mère. Donc, je vais peut-être streamer un peu plus tôt dans l'après-midi ou pas streamer. Et vendredi, un peu pareil. Ah non, vendredi soir, je vais probablement streamer. Sorry, I'll say it in English for everyone. So French Fury is asking me. He's saying like it's nice, it's interesting to see like the debates, and he's enjoying the stream. So he's asking me if I stream regularly. So I do stream regularly. I stream almost every evening during weekdays. This week and next week is going to be a bit exceptional. So on Tuesday I am not streaming because it's my mother's birthday, or maybe I'll stream earlier in the afternoon. And then next week I am in the I'm on a ski trip next week, so I will be streaming a little bit. I will be IRL streaming from the mountains. I'll be streaming on the ski, like because I have this thing. Let me show it to you. Oh, here, let me show it off. I have the strap, so I can put my phone here, and I'll be I'll be streaming from the mountains, like skiing down the mountains and stuff. But not much political content in that situation, obviously. We can still have discussions in the mountains, but you know, I'm not gonna have my my computer, my resources, etc. Strap pornist US ski stream. Wow, sympa, merci. I think the orcs are literally Nazi elves who lost their soul and embraced technology against nature. No, I think I agree with Beckdorf. The orcs are more of like, especially when you see what Saruman has done, like taking it to the next level, and then also what happens in the Shire while the Fellowship is away. It's there's a bit of a commentary on industrialism and like technology essentialism. Nice guitars, man, in your background. Thank you. I'm a bassist, so I have a really nice Sandberg. Let me show it off. I have this really nice Sandberg bass. This is like my nicest bass. Yeah. There you go. Wow. More so considering Melkor was just playing to be Eru in making the orcs. I was actually thinking about also doing some music streams from time to time, but that's also like one of those ongoing ideas that I need to make a reality. Yo, thanks for the follow, Peter Parker. Appreciate it a lot. Because I have like all this stuff connected. I think I can actually like if I plug in my bass, you would actually be able to hear it. I have like the preamp connected to my sound card and everything. But anyways. And then I got this one. This is actually my first bass. This is my first one. Oh my fucking god, you're a fucking bassist. Yes, I am. This is my first bass like that I got. What was like, dude, like 10 or 11 years ago. you can tell. You can tell. Like this is where I go. This is usually where I hold my thumb. So you got it like. I love that it's like gets all like torn up here, and obviously because I've been like a poor wandering artist, I've like banged the shit out of it. Learned how to play with 6 strings. I actually did play with 5 strings in a metal band I played with a couple years back, but they I was just borrowing my guitarist's bass. It was kind of destabilizing because most of the songs I was playing on my 4 string, and then there was like 1 or 2 songs where I was playing on the 5 string to get like the super low like C notes and stuff. But you get used to it pretty fast. Actually, it's not that hard. Hi there, Mr. Geek. Nice to see you. Yo, Peter Parker, you're a Mr. Geek viewer. Sick. Nice. You look like you did a jazz gig. Yeah, right now I look like I just did a jazz gig for sure. Most of my music career, I actually played in a jazz band. I can show you. There's still some videos online of the music we used to do. This is like this is not Russia Ukraine stuff, but it's cool. I love to brag about it, I guess. It's gonna be in my liked videos or stuff. Where do I find those? Show more. Oh yeah, liked videos, I guess. I go like way back. Oh yeah, you can see me play here. This is a concert we did in the streets of Paris, way long ago. Paris, yeah. That was cool. It was like a festival, a little like festival organized on along the streets of the Viaduc des Arts. God, I cringe listening to it though. Dude, I was like, I had a bunch of mistakes here. Back in the days of Charles de Gaulle and the Algerian War, yes. Tu connais Meite Show? No, I don't know them. I had more hair back then. Yeah, I had the full like Jufro.
A little expensive free jazz on the streets of Paris.
And she was, and that lady was the hot like model that the drummer was sleeping with. Because he was like actually in the fashion industry stuff too. He was doing fashion shows and stuff, so he met all sorts of like models. Nice, yeah. Tu viens de quel pays à la base? I was born in the US, but my family's from Poland. Yeah, a couple of years back, I basically decided I was tired of having the long hair. Because you have to realize, I've had long hair from like, since I was 14 until I was like 28 or like 30. It's always great to look back on past creations. Yeah, it's really nice. But yeah, so mostly we were just like a lot of jamming, like a lot of improv, a lot of influence from like free jazz. Oh yeah, hey, this is the, okay, you can barely tell because it's so dark, but this is like the bass I just showed off. The nice sound quality, by the way. Anyways, there we go. Pre-clowncore. Yeah. Clowncore is sick though. Does it happen during improv that you find yourself playing some other music by accident? What do you mean by that? Other music by accident? Oh, like playing like the theme to another song or something? Oh yeah, that happens a lot actually. It's there's even a name for it. I forgot the technical name, but there's a name for it where you like, for example, you're doing improv, you're doing a solo, or you're like jamming, and suddenly you like play something, you're like, oh yeah, this is like almost that other song. And then you just like start playing that other song. Then the musician's like, "Oh yeah," and then you like do a little, you know, like a little homage to that, and then you like almost like a medley, and then you go back into the music. Do I know the band Dumbo Gets Mad? No, not at all. I guess this is a music stream now. Like I'm doing improv, and at some point we're playing Gladiator or something. Nice, that's awesome. Plagiarism, yeah. Like, it's, as long as it's not AI, it's okay, right? Dumbo gets mad. I've never heard of them. Let's see. What do I work in if it's not indiscreet to ask? Alright, this is pretty cool, actually. I like this. Thanks for the rec, Couchman. I like this. They're French, that's why I asked, though. Well, I'm terrible with French culture. Like, I've only watched one single... what's his name? Oh god, that super pretentious, like, French filmmaker. Jean-Luc Godard. I've only ever watched a single Jean-Luc Godard movie. Okay? And like I barely know the names of French actors. I don't watch French movies. I don't listen to much of French music. Yeah, top of that list, yeah. My entire knowledge of French culture comes from The Simpsons. Nice. Anyways, yeah, no worries, Peter Parker. I like talking about music, so it's cool. Oui, donc je travaille dans quoi? What I work in? Right now, I'm not working, but I've done different things, I guess, in my life. I've worked for... I've been a musician and sound engineer for, like, 4 years earlier in my life. Kind of doing both at the same time. I never like lived full time from music, but doing like a little bit of money playing concerts, a little bit of money doing sound engineering gigs, and I was able to like make a living. Then I had like personal problems in my life and stuff, so I had to give up on the projects I was working on and such. And I decided to learn programming as in an autodidactic way. So I learned programming, and a friend of mine who had created a small like programming firm decided to give me a chance. I did like an unpaid internship for a couple of years. 100% nepotism, by the way. I own up to that. But I did the job, and so he hired me. And so I worked for 4 years as a software engineer, building up experience and so on and so forth. And then I got burnt out on software engineering, especially during COVID. And I fucking hated what I was doing and my life, and I decided to quit. And I since then, I've been living off of savings and streaming and trying to explore the world of content creation. Let's put it that way. Clearly not a resounding success, given the viewership I'm getting, but I'm trying. I've been thinking about like maybe going back to study. I don't quite like know what I would want to do if I would was to look for a job, but I could afford to like go back to university. So I've been thinking more and more about that actually, because I don't even have like a degree. I haven't heard this band's new stuff. I like it. Yeah, this is sick. I like it. I don't watch French movies. I only watch Macron. Yeah, we've talked a lot about Macron. Hey, Chinchilla, why are you here yesterday? Because we went in depth on the vote of no confidence and all that stuff. I'm calling it AI improv will be a thing in 5 to 7 years. Absolutely, yeah. Yay, non-degree years, yeah. Politique, you would be good, and Manu needs some help. Oh god, my friends would hate me. Imagine if I went into like political science and then I joined Macron's party. I would, everyone around me would fucking despise me. It would be glorious. I know no one in my entourage who supports Macron. My boss used to support Macron, but then he changed his mind. I saw you wearing a jacket yesterday as well. Are you going for more of a David Pacman look? Yeah, I'm trying something new. I want to see if it helps, like if it helps with my image or not. I know it's a bit of a meme to talk about image, but obviously image is important no matter how many viewers you have. So you would have to start calling him Emmanuel. Yeah, right. You saw that clip where he gets mad at a kid for calling him Manu. He's still there, so Macron still got the confidence, and therefore it's a democratic, legitimate thing he did. Get wrecked, oh yo-yo. I think there's fair criticism of the 49.3 law as being anti-democratic, and you can still support, you know, what, like, obviously the institutions and so on and so forth. Who else is there, though? Well, that's the problem. Being more left-leaning, I would still support, like, Mélenchon over Marine Le Pen or whoever, like, the Républicains propose or whatever, like Pécresse. But yeah, it's rough in the political French scene, for at least my personal convictions. In my everyday life, is speaking French useful? Yes, it is. I live in Paris, or in France in general. All my friends, all the people I know and interact with are French, so it's very important that I've learned to speak French. And I've lived here since I was 5 years old. I'm 33 now, so basically almost 20 years. Yeah. Ouais, bah ouais. Hi there. You are in shirt and tie? Well, no tie, no tie. I don't like ties. I don't like having something around my neck. But yeah, I'm trying out the like classy look. Yeah, this clip exactly. President Macron was meeting students at an event. How's it going, Manu?
Voilà, tu es là, dans une cérémonie officielle, tu te comportes comme il faut. Donc tu peux faire l'imbécile, mais aujourd'hui c'est la Marseillaise et le chant des partisans. Tu m'appelles Monsieur le Président de la République ou Monsieur. D'accord? Voilà, c'est bien. Et tu fais les choses dans le bon ordre.
This is such a funny clip. I fucking hate the second part of his. I don't hate the. I'm okay, whatever. You want to be called Mr. President? I mean, I would tell him to fuck off, but okay, like, you know, because, you know, free speech, whatever. Of course I can call him Manu. Like, fuck off. Just because I'm younger than you doesn't mean I have to call you whatever the fuck you want me to call you. But then the second part is, like, horrible. Like, telling him you need to get a degree and support yourself before you have an idea of how to change society. To which island will we send Macron after all this is over? Definitely not like Helena's island. Was that one that we sent Napoleon to? I think it's that one, right? Saint Helena, yeah, because that one's not very secure. Elba as well, yeah. Well, those aren't very secure, so we need something safer to keep him in. Sounds like the way his wife talks to him. Actually, you know what, Scoopsaroo? You might be onto something. You might be onto something, because, like, his wife, since his wife was his teacher when he was younger, she almost certainly had, like, talked to him in this in this way. Like, this is totally this, like, weird power dynamic of like the teacher trying to parent a kid. Baljeune aurait dû lui répondre, je respecte ce qui est respectable. Mais clairement, t'as le droit de manquer de respect au président. Ou alors on n'est pas dans un pays libre. I'm sure his parents did too, being a former president. Yeah. Oh yeah, like or you mean in general, like the generational thing. Yeah, his parents probably taught him in, like, more strict way as well. Wait, he married his teacher? Yes. Brigitte Macron used to be Macron's teacher when he was 17, if I recall correctly, like in the last year of his high school. Then because of his then his parents sent him to, like, Paris for a couple years for his studies, because they saw him, like, getting close to his teacher, and it weirded them out. And then when he came back as an adult, he pursued a romantic relationship with his teacher, or she pursued it with him. I mean, they're both consenting adults, and there you go. That's the relationship, more or less. I might have gotten some details wrong. I honestly don't really care that much. Hot take, I don't give a shit about their age difference. I actually don't. And, like, I actually don't. All lies, all. What did I lie about? But yeah, no. So Frenchy Fury, like, put it clearly, like, what I'm thinking when I see this clip. Like, the kid should have just answered, sure, you want respect? I'll respect you when you've earned it. I'll respect you when you've earned my respect. You just standing here in front of me does not mean I have to respect you. But hey. It is what it is. As a kid, it's hard to deal with that situation. You would need to be very, very, very emancipated and mature in order to be able to handle like that authority that is facing you. Talk like a real Sun King. Yeah, exactly. He still calls her Mrs. Trognu at home. I hope not. Unless it's kinky roleplay. I don't kink shame, okay? If they want to do some student teacher roleplay in bed, you know, that's their prerogative. But I hope it's not like a daily thing. Anyways, I guess let's go back to the Russia-Ukraine video.
Everything would fail, but Moscow was silent. So Girkin took his troops and left.
Oh, ooh, cringe would be a good response. That would be hilarious. If that kid went like, cringe. L. Lacron. If that kid would respond to him, sure, Lacron. Oyo endorses pedophilia if the adult is female. No, I'm actually consistent on that. I don't think big age gaps are as big of a deal as people make them out to be, regardless of the gender, Kino. Of course, I don't support pedophilia. I don't support exploitation of minors. But what I'm trying to get at is that I genuinely believe that at some point in society, we've confused abusive relationship with age gap relationship. So obviously, in an age gap relationship, there is a power dynamic, but a power dynamic is abusive only if it's used to abuse. If there is a power dynamic and it is not abusive, then it's not an abusive relationship. Just there being a power dynamic does not mean it's abuse. And I think this conflation is happening all over the world in like this very Puritan approach towards relationships. Instead of wondering, is the relationship good for the people? We're wondering, we're checking out fucking boxes. Like, okay, there's over 5.5 years difference, and she was 17 years old, 364 days, and like 99 seconds old. So this is immoral. Like, no, that's not what matters. That's actually not what matters. What matters is that when a minor, when a child is in a situation where there's a strong power dynamic, like for example with the teacher, it's understandable that people are weirded out with like Emmanuel Macron's and Brigitte's origin of the relationship. That definitely is dangerous. It's extremely dangerous, and there's reasons you generally don't want to have that happen in society. I mean, Americans are kind of dumb with it. If you date a 17-year-old as a 19-year-old, you get canceled. Call me Carlson incident. Yeah. Americans sometimes are really dumb with that. You're being obtuse, sir. It matters. Just like mail order brides are immoral. There's a power dynamic. Age matters. So the power dynamic matters up to a certain extent. The power dynamic matters up to a certain extent. Obviously, a mail order bride is someone who is extremely vulnerable in that situation. They're entirely dependent of whoever ordered them, and that is something that even if there can be fulfilling relationships from a mail order system, I think it's okay to just outlaw it entirely. I think it's okay to outlaw, honestly, a teacher dating a student, but officially, at least, as far as we know, Macron and Brigitte started dating, Emmanuel and Brigitte started dating after they were both adults, when she was no longer his teacher. So, as far as their story is concerned, I don't see anything wrong with it. Would outlaw male bride order? Yes. They fucked when Macron was a kid. No, I don't know that. If I learned about that, that would change my... that would change my opinion. What about teachers grooming a student to the point that the parents switch schools? Yeah, it is. The origin of the situation is fucking weird, and I understand why people would accuse her of grooming. I do understand that, and there's a fair argument there. You're right. There is a fair perspective to be afraid that it was a grooming situation. The problem then is that in hindsight, clearly, given how long the relationship has been, both Emmanuel and Brigitte are happy with the relationship. So it's kind of hard to now look back and be like, okay, what you did was wrong, even though it led to a fulfilling relationship between the two of you. But if in any other situation, or rather without the benefit of hindsight, I would 100% agree with you that it shouldn't have happened. Like, honestly, they shouldn't have had any kind of relationship. Like, if I was looking at the situation in the moment, I would be like, this is super fucked up. When I was talking about power dynamics not mattering as much as some people think, I was exaggerating a little bit, because honestly, like, student-teacher relationships are kind of the point where power dynamics start to take over the relationship, and like there's a bit too much power there. Frenchy Fury. Oh god. He's saying when Macron was elected, I was hoping to see a beautiful creature, or like a beautiful wife, but instead we got a mummy. Well, you should have elected Sarkozy in again, right? Who's he married with again? Oh god. Oh yes, Carla Bruni. my girlfriend's watching, like, listening to the stream from the bedroom, and she's yelling. She yelled Carla Bruni, and now she's yelling, but she's ugly. I'm cringing so hard. Yo, thanks for the 10 bits. Appreciate it. Yeah, I guess she's old. I don't think, but okay, this is not a hot take. Frenchy Fury. Older women are not ugly. She's beautiful, I think. Maybe a little bit too much, like, on the cheekbones. But Caitlyn Jenner, yeah, she has a bit of that, like, super prominent cheekbone. Like I don't know if she's had plastic surgery, but it almost looks like plastic surgery cheekbones, which I don't like. But she's not, like, horrible. And Brigitte Macron is really old, but whoa, stop! Oh, that's because my mouse was there. I don't think Brigitte Macron is ugly either. She's just an older woman. She's a beautiful older woman. It's not getting old, it's surgery, yeah. On the other hand, Marion Maréchal, oh god. This is the true test. This is the true test of all lefty French men, okay? If you meet a French man who says he's left-leaning, ask him if he would have sex with Marion Maréchal Le Pen. That is the true test of his ideology. How is Le Pen's husband? I don't know. Who is it? Franck Chauffroy? Wait, who is she married to? Or is her, like, personal life? Family life? Blah, blah, blah. She has a bunch of cats. In 1997, she marries Franck Chauffroy. Oh, and since 2009... she's had Louis Alliot as partner, but they haven't married, and they separated in 2019. So this man was her latest partner. She's married to France. She's married to Putin. C'est ma femme Marion. She's single now. Hey, get the mom too, Frenchy Fury. Okay, get the mom too. Get the daughter and the mom. Full package. Isn't Le Pen married to Nigel Farage and Boris Johnson? Yeah. That was her daughter. Yeah. Marion Maréchal Le Pen is Marine Le Pen's daughter. And the funny thing with Marion Maréchal Le Pen is that she actually betrayed her mom's party in the last elections. She went over to Zemmour's party during the campaign, which is very interesting. Yeah, no, they're both attractive. I know. Oh no, it's her niece. Oh fuck! I'm spreading fake news. No, I thought it was Marion Maréchal. Oh shit. No, mais t'as raison. Thank God, Sophie's fact checking me from the background. Thank God she's there. Correction department on point, exactly. Can you wear that blazer more often? You look more official, and you can spew your lives with credibility. I knew he was a liar. Yeah. I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna look like dapper for my streams from now on. See if I can like build a, have something, bring something visually unique to this streaming hellhole that is Twitch. It's not that unique. There's other people who do it too, but you know what I mean. Okay, I'm saying that as if I had this like artistic vision of my like brand, and like the fucking meme, with the equations, like here I'm calculating like what's going to be the best impact to grow my channel and all that stuff. What actually is happening is I just fucking love how I look in this. That's like literally it, and I just want excuses. To wear this. That's all, because I don't have a job right now. I'm not a fucking banker. I'm not a fucking politician. I have no reason to wear a suit 99% of the time, or to wear like a nice blazer. This is just an excuse. So I can actually wear it and feel good wearing it, because I fucking love it. That's like literally it. That's the real reason. I thought you went to riot in these clothes. Oh, I'm definitely not going, dude. If I go into one of those protests or riots with these clothes, either they'll believe that I'm like a deputy, or they'll believe that I'm like a pro Macron banker or something. I don't know about the children, but she enjoys cats. Yeah, she has 6 cats. This sounds like some Jordan Peterson shit. Just dress in the blazer and everything will work out. Yeah, exactly. Use that blazer in a cafe and people will come to talk to you. Maybe. Until now, what I felt is that I felt like like it's a little bit intimidating to people to dress up. Wait, you know how many cats she has? Because I just checked her Wikipedia. On her Wikipedia, it says she has 6 Bengal cats. Marine Le Pen specifically. No, yeah. So like last time, I think yesterday, I went out for lunch, and like the waitress, who normally she's like, because it's this restaurant I go to very regularly. Normally we're like on a very friendly basis and like just chatting and stuff, and she was like kind of distant, like, oh yeah, is everything okay and stuff. And I was like, wait, it's just me, dude. It's just me. I like drop by and eat a burger and have a beer like once every 2 weeks. What do you mean? Why are you like treating me different? So I don't know. Like it's true though. What you trade her to the proletariat, plain and simple. True. She thinks you're a babe now. That's it. I don't know. That's not the feeling I had. Part of the feeling though, it's true. It does feel like you're wearing like a piece of armor. Like especially like you wear this and you're like, you have the uniform of the people, of the powerful people in society, or there's like this weird fucking social construct, brainworm in our brains that's like feeding us all this bullshit about what this piece of fabric is supposed to mean. You know what I mean? Doesn't mean anything actually. I just think it looks good, but I have a peacoat that does that. Nice. Toi, t'as du bien pécho à Paris avec ton accent anglais. I have to admit, yeah, being international is a huge game changer for dating. Like on the dating apps and everything. First off, you can date tourists, which is like you increase the pool. And yeah, it impresses people, it's true. If you had a green screen, what would you make your background? Just crop yourself or go all out like CoffeeZilla? I think it depends on the views. I would like to go all out. I think you can do a lot of like creative stuff with the background. You could like play around with it, do a lot of like role play stuff as well, do a lot of jokes and like setups for jokes with the background, which are things I would really, really like to do. I was thinking recently about like putting the sub money to buying a nice little like cheap Amazon green screen for the background actually. Next masculinity talk, I'll match your blazer look. Last one I tried to match your hairdo. Nice. Let's go. Que prépare Marine Le Pen avec ses chats? Oh no. This is the true threat of the far right takeover of French politics. She is training a cat commando that is going to take over the world and starting with the French government. Plot twist, her cats are children disguised as cats. Oh no. The power of the vest, yeah. When I was working as a consultant, I wore suits. For some reason, I'm made for wearing suits. Well, I want to go even further. The suits are made to be worn by you, right? Go, like, if you want to have this, like, dapper suit blazer look, go get, like, a nice, decent, mass-made, cheap blazer from any, like, mass-made thing that fits you as closely as possible, and then go see a tailor. Just have, like, don't bother buying, you know, like a $700 fucking tailored suit, like bespoke suit. That shit's super expensive. It'll look great. It will look amazing, but most of us don't have that money, right? Go get like a simple, cheaper suit, fits you as close as possible, then get it tailored so it actually fits you, and it'll look 1,000 times better than a $1,000 suit that's not fitted. It's all in the fit. It's all in making the suit perfect for you personally. Oh yeah, so he's showing me the cat. We have a cat here right now too. Walk into the building like Brian Gosling. Oh yeah, I need to try that as well. A suit for sure, but blazers can be casual. Oh yeah, true as well. Obviously, just wearing the blazer. Like right now, I'm wearing it with a shirt, so that's a bit more like up, like elevated. But I'm just wearing jeans, so yeah, you obviously can dress it up and dress it down. If you wear what powerful people wear, you are protected by power. I don't think it's a weird brain trick. Well, it is a weird brain trick. When I say it's a weird brain trick, is what I mean is it's not something people consciously do, right? It's like one of those manipulation tricks that you can use in your daily life. 95% here can speak English good enough to hold a good conversation, so everybody can date tourists here. Yeah. In France, the level of like in English speaking is a bit lower. Obviously, in younger people, it's pretty high. But I try to buy cigarettes in normal clothes. I get checked for ID. I buy them in a suit. They don't even bother to ask for money. Nice. I just bought a North Face light coat here in Punta Arenas, and I walk around feeling like one of those cruiser-landed American tourists. I know what you mean. Yeah. It's like how Count Dankula trained his pug to do a Nazi salute. Oh, with Marine Le Pen and the cat? Yeah. Salesman, yes. En tant que, as a foreigner, what did you think about the Gilets jaunes? I think I feel like I understand, because not as much as a foreigner, but as someone who actually lives and works in France, I think I understand a lot of why the Gilets jaunes were pissed off at Macron. So it started with the taxes, the planned taxes for the gas prices, or the increasing gas prices through taxation. The idea was like pro-ecological measures, but in practice, the way people saw it was as yet another way of passing on the buck of this like capitalist consumer society to the people, instead of holding like companies responsible, instead of holding other people responsible, whether it's rich people, companies, whatever. Like the French people didn't want to have like all this like carbon cost passed down onto them, basically. And the reality of it is that a lot of people, especially, you know, if they're poorer, they tend to live further away from the cities or not even in the big cities, in which case they're much more reliant on gas. So taxing gas indiscriminately is actually a regressive taxation. It affects poor people much more than rich people. So I think the original causes of the Gilets jaunes movement I agree with them, and are justified. And I think after that it becomes complicated, right? I think the main problem with the movement was that it was decentralized and apolitical almost. Obviously it was political, but when I say apolitical, I mean it had no real ideology. So you had Marine Le Pen on the far right try to lay claim to the Gilets jaunes. You had Mélenchon on the far left trying to lay claim to the Gilets jaunes. In the end, like nowadays, the Gilets jaunes are borderline, like every single time I see Gilets jaunes is at an anti-vax protest. They've become like the weird boomer grandpa who's warning you about Pfizer nano chips and like a lizard, like Macron is actually a lizard wearing human skin and shit like that. So like it's gone in a really weird direction that really decredibilizes the whole movement as well, which is a problem when it's not an actual like movement built around specific ideas. It's just this like vague discontent, right? It's the fabric too. When it's synthetic, the suit has this shiny, cheap vibe. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, you need to like find a cheap suit, but with nice fabric. That's the most important part for sure. Where are the French tanks? So an undisclosed number of AMX-10 RCs have already been delivered to Ukraine last week. The Ukrainian crews have already trained on the tanks. They've been trained for the past 2 months. And so there's already quite a few French tanks in Ukraine fighting the war at the moment. Actually, they could even be fighting literally right now because they're equipped with the night vision equipment. Oh, reptilians are real, but they are just a club of teenage aliens cosplaying as human leaders for laughs. True. Big true. So it's all fake news. Wait, what is fake news? What do you mean? Hi, just joined. What are we talking about? So originally we were talking mostly about some following up on Russia-Ukraine news, having a bit of like a debate about some of the topics. Most of the chat is pro-Ukrainian, but we've also had some people who are more like pro-Russian, going over the history of the Maidan revolution, and we kind of got derailed. Talked a little bit about my personal life, my past jobs. Right now, it's more of like just a chatting stream vibe where people are like asking me questions. We're talking about random stuff, making fun of some like talking about French politics because I live in France, and I don't know if you've heard about. There's recently been a lot of unrest in France around the Macron's law proposals that just passed and stuff like that. Yo, see you, Beckdorf. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for dropping by. Have a bon appétit. So we're kind of all over the place. Massive TV. Right now we're discussing reptilians, actually, specifically. I read something about only Germany was delivering tanks. No. France has already delivered a bunch of tanks to Ukraine. Yeah, so we have Thierry Baudet, a far-right conspiracy nut. He tried to infiltrate our farmer protests to co-opt that for his own stuff. Didn't work. Nice. I didn't like the coverage of the Yellow Vest protests by Anglophone media, which broke down essentialized the Yellow Vest protests to just the rising cost of gas. That is true. Because they conflated the original cause, like because what started the protests was the gas tax, right? But the discontent with Macron, it's much more fundamental. Because people have to understand, Macron didn't get elected because the French people wanted him. He got elected because the French people did not want Marine Le Pen. Truly only 30% on the first round of the French people actually supported Macron. And 2 times, yeah, it's the second time he got elected as well. Sexy lesser evil, exactly. Did I cover the farmer protests? A little bit. Back when it was happening, yeah, I did cover a little bit of it. I don't remember much, honestly. Yeah, I heard that about what Macron did with that law. I didn't hear a lot about the protests, though. So yesterday there were big protests because yesterday was the vote of no confidence. That was the only chance for the parliament to stop the law from going into effect. The problem with the vote of no confidence, so there is a specific clause in the way the French constitution works, where the executive branch can propose a law and force it through parliament without a vote. If the president's party and his cabinet judge that the law needs to pass regardless of democratic process, they can force it through. And then the parliament has only one single response, which is petitioning for a vote of no confidence. For that, they need over 50% of the votes in parliament. And if the vote of no confidence passes, they not only does the law not go into effect, but they also evict the entire French government, and new elections have to be held. So basically, it's kind of an ultimatum. Either you throw the country into chaos by dismantling the government and forcing new elections, or you let the law pass. And so yesterday was the vote of no confidence, and the Macron's government almost got kicked out. They won by 9 votes. nine more votes for the vote of no confidence, and Macron would no longer be president today, which is like crazy. It's crazy. And so people went out to protest right after the news about the vote failing, because like I think it's 78% of the French people. Let me double check. It's either 73 or 78% of French people are against the law. So the level of discontent, the Macron's at record low levels of approval. People are not happy with this in France. We also gave Ukraine tanks, but the Netherlands didn't have tanks, you say? We bought Moroccan tanks and gave them to Ukraine. Oh, Chinchilla, what kind of tanks were they? It would be so funny. It would be so funny if the tanks you bought from Morocco were tanks Morocco bought from France. And then you send them to Ukraine. If those are just like French tanks originally. Because France is one of the suppliers of Moroccan, of the Moroccan military. I don't know if it's reasonable that I believe that the elections are faked. There are some shady areas. I don't think it's reasonable to think that the elections that there is something wrong with the elections. I disagree with that, because France has like really strong safeguards as far as democratic elections are, as far as like running democratic elections. I personally have a really high confidence in the French institutions compared to most other countries in the world. Where I would suspect there is something undemocratic happening, it's more if we get into this discussion of, for example, manufactured consent. I don't know if you know that concept. It's a term that comes from Noam Chomsky's eponymous book, Manufactured Consent. And it's the idea that media can fabricate political sentiment. So when we see French like oligarchs like Bolloré own like CNews, dabble with like TF1, BFM TV, like when you see like those media conglomerates really have a strong influence in French politics, then you can raise a question about whether media is playing its role as a democratic separation of power and foil, or whether it's actually serving to undermine democracy. But the elections themselves, like mechanically speaking, I think I personally have high confidence in them. Interesting. All these Russian trolls have been talking about how we need a vote of no confidence in Canada to undermine democracy. This is where they get it from in the world news. Interesting. I didn't even know there was a process for the vote of no confidence. I imagine there's a process for that in like every country, but I didn't know that was something that was talked about in Canadian politics. Is there a reason for that, Aaron? Sounds almost like this gives the government the chance to blackmail the parliament. Do you think this clause should exist? I don't know. The problem is, on the one hand, there are flaws with like a pure democratic process, right? So if the government has to take a decision that is in the interest of the country, but that is unpopular, in an ideal world, the government has the power to make that decision and to go against the will of the people, but to go be for the good of the people, right? So that is the intent of this law in the French Constitution. That was how Charles de Gaulle designed this law. He wanted it to stabilize the government against the fluctuation of popular opinion. And in that sense, the law fulfills its role. Now, the problem is that to what extent, it's kind of an open debate, right? To what extent do you want it to be a full democracy, or to what extent do you want the government to have the power to do what it has to do? Those kind of are at the opposite end of the spectrum. Yeah, democracy has checks and balances, absolutely. And this is kind of supposed to be like a check and a balance against the democratic power, the democratic process. Now, that being said, the problem with it is that it is kind of an ultimatum. The problem is that the check and balance against the clause itself is far too extreme. Yesterday we were watching French TV on the stream, and that there was this lady, the representative of the CGT, one of the largest unions in France, who was saying, and I agree with what she said. She was saying that this law, the vote of no confidence, that requirement to counter that the motion of this law is so high that it will never happen. And it's only happened once in the French history, even though, like Scoopster just said, this now marks the 100th time that the 49.3 law was put into motion in French lawmaking. 100 times now, the government tried to pass a law without going through the parliament, without going through the due democratic process, and 99 out of those 100 times, it just passed. Because the alternative is political chaos. It's overthrowing the government and having to run new elections. The similarities between Trudeau and Macron are crazy. It's the Frenchiness. They are both basically like center-left politicians, right? They are basically both center-left politicians. Even politically, they're very, very similar. There isn't anything our prime minister has done to deserve a vote. They just want to divide Canadians, so we fight among ourselves and don't notice what Russia's doing. Oh yeah, so the usual, yeah. It's wow, really? That's incredible. One would expect that the clause is only used under very special circumstances. Yeah, I know. I would expect it to only be used under very special circumstances as well. Do I feel French? I do, but I also feel American. I also feel Polish, and before all those things, I feel human. I know this is like a corny thing to say, but I think all of my identities, rather than like making me one thing over another, I feel like they bring me closer to all people on Earth. I can, when I look at all the different people on Earth, I try to see what I have in common with them, not that I'm not the same thing as them. And at least that's the ideal I strive for, personally. But I do feel French. Put I feel gay to that, and you can be at FIFA. Nice, thank you, Vanderk. Maybe you guys should start a new republic. Mélenchon's program for the and Mélenchon's program now for the past like 15 years has been to start the Sixth Republic. Mélenchon wants to redo the French Constitution. His specific plan is to dismantle the Fifth Republic and to put into place people's workshops to propose clauses for the Sixth Republic Constitution, and then have them voted in by referendum to form like a true democratic Sixth Republic. Which is pretty ironic considering the way he runs his own party is authoritarian and has absolutely no democratic process within it. I gotta go to the library. Any book suggestions? The last good books I read are into fantasy, because the last stuff that really blew my mind was Brandon Sanderson's series, Radiant series or whatever. Let me Google it real quick. It's some really cool fantasy. Let me double check. Oh, The Way of Kings. The Way of Kings. That's the name of the first book. It's really, really good. Right now, I just bought some new books that I'm gonna read. I bought a Hannah Arendt book because I want to like get more serious into like educating myself politically, and I think I need to read some more political literature. And I've also I've finally bought the Three Body Problem trilogy by Liu Cixin. I've heard a lot of good about it. It's science fiction, and people have told me it's one of the greatest science fiction books recently came out. So I'm super stoked to start reading it. But yeah. Or Hannah Arendt, on totalitarianism. It's a classic for political science. It's it's not the one I bought, but it's on my reading list as well. I've read and studied excerpts from it in class, but I haven't actually read the whole book. Why is dissolving the parliament and re-electing throwing things into chaos? It's okay. I'm exaggerating. You're right. It's not throwing the country into chaos necessarily. It is instability, though. It is a very unstable situation for the country. Okay, see ya. Have a good night. Good night to you too, Jokesta. Have a good one. And also, on top of that, there is a fear that Macron, in response to the vote of no confidence, could dismantle the parliament. So you could have like the sequence of events. Macron tries to force the law through. Parliament votes no confidence, which means the government should end. Except Macron, in response, dissolves parliament because he has the power to do that. in like an emergency situation, meaning now we have to re-elect Parliament. Parliament will re-vote on a vote of no confidence, and then if it doesn't pass, people will be fucking pissed because that's super fucked up to escalate it that way. And if it does pass, then once again Macron's government has to leave, and then you have to run another election. Like it could have been really crazy. What is the alternative? Having a dishonest president or dishonest parliament? Macron's been dishonest about certain things, but I have to admit on this is actually one of the things he's always been honest about. He always wanted to reform the retirement system. This is something he's wanted to do since his very first term, if I recall correctly, his program. So this is actually something he campaigned on. This is not dishonest. Now, unless by dishonest you mean like the undemocratic aspect of the way he's forced the law through, which I'll concede. I guess, yeah, no, I struggle to call him dishonest in this specific situation, honestly. I can understand you feel French and human. How about European? Definitely. I 100% feel European. I think there are a lot of flaws in the European Union, but I think overall the European Union is a beautiful institution. It's kind of the greatest example of successful construction of peace in between nations in the modern age. Because that's what the goal was, right? The goal of the construction of the European Union was to establish peace in Europe for once and for all, after the Second World War. And the European Union has been very effective at that, actually. I mean, he forced the law to the parliament, that 42.9 got triggered, and they failed to vote against the law. Yeah, couldn't agree more. Very well said. It's honestly one of the most beautiful. I think it's far more beautiful and effective than the UN, because the UN is just a symbolic body, whereas the EU actually succeeded at what it actually has power and succeeds at what it's supposed to accomplish. And now we still have the same government and parliament. Yeah, well, the institutions work the way they're supposed to work, right? The vote of no confidence failed, so the law passed, and the government's still in place. And yeah, no one wants that law, or at least like more than 70% of the French people don't want that law. But that's the way the institutions are set up. I honestly think the consequences of this will be felt in the next elections. That is what I'm mostly afraid of. I'm afraid that the next elections are going to be a slam dunk for Marine Le Pen. She almost won the last ones. If I recall correctly, what was it? Did she have like 45%? Yeah, and trust in the political system will erode. Absolutely. Absolutely. A lot of political capital got lost in this whole debacle. And I think it's a dangerous game. I do think it's a very dangerous game. Political capital was spent. Whoever succeeds Macron will succeed the negative image that Macron has built for himself and for his party. And the truth is, the far right has been growing in France over the past 20 years. Progressively. Macron is out of mana, pretty much. The far right has been growing progressively. And Macron's strategy, especially for the second election, but even for the first election, was to make sure to end up against the far right on the second round, because he knows that everyone's going to vote against the far right. All the left-wing voters who hate him, they'll vote for the lesser evil. I don't know how long that will work, especially nowadays. There are rumors that Emmanuel Macron wants to run for the next presidential elections. I'm 99% sure he cannot. And I'm pretty sure the Constitution forbids 3 terms in a row. Let me double check again. Yeah. The president of France is elected for 5 years, and his mandate can be renewed once. Macron cannot run for the next election. Do you also have some esoteric farmer right-wing numbnuts in France? Yes, we do. I wouldn't call them... I mean, they are sort of right-wing, but they're also more kind of just like politically weird. Wait, is it Philippe Poutou? Let me. No, he's the anti-capitalist party. Sorry. Who is the representative of the farmers? Who is the farmers politician, Frenchy Fury? I forgot his name. Oh God, he's quite the character. He's really fun to see. Oh, Jean Lassalle. Yes, thank you. I think it's him, right? Yeah, it's him, Jean Lassalle. This guy is the farmers guy in France. I also think it's said that the trend goes more and more towards nationalism. The EU feels too distant for most people, absolutely. And it's easy to hate on a system that makes laws you have to follow, but that you cannot easily control as a normal citizen. Yes, there is a legitimacy crisis around the EU. That means that parties that build a rhetoric around sovereignty can build a lot of popularity. And obviously nationalism and sovereignty go hand in hand. So yes. It is a crisis for the EU that the EU needs to figure out how to resolve in a row. So maybe he can rent Medvedev as a puppet stand-in for one term, worked in Russia. Unironically, I think that's what might happen. What might happen is next election, Marine Le Pen gets elected, and 5 years later, Macron gets elected again. I unironically think that might be the next 10 years of French politics. A shit show under Marine Le Pen, and then Macron like swoops in to save the day and continue his grand plan. I stumble into some groups here in Germany that are like, our farming is so ecological, we are great, we're such experts in ecological and organic farming, but at the end around the campfire, they're literally reading from Mein Kampf. Oh no. Je l'adore ce mec. Yeah, Jean Lassalle is amazing. He's great. He's got a nose for the job, true. A lot of sitting governments and right-wing parties blame the EU when they cannot do something. At least that is how it works in the Netherlands. Yeah, you can even just make shit up. I've had this discussion with a friend who's anti-EU. I've had this discussion with a friend who's like a bit of a reactionary anti-EU guy. And he was citing me. I remember him citing me, like we were debating the EU regularly. I almost always debate him because he's like anti-SJW and all that stuff. So he was saying, don't you know the European Union, for example, is forbidding Spanish farmers from like grazing their pastures, and like those technocrats up in Brussels are like fucking with the local farming stuff. So I looked into it, and what he cited was actually a real problem, and it's kind of representative of the flaws of the European Union, which are real, which is that you have inexperienced technocrats ruling on things that they don't really understand. So in that specific case, pastures in Spain, being more of like a Mediterranean climate, are different than pastures in Central Europe. So when the European Union decided that decide on subsidies for farmers, they decided that to prevent fraud, the subsidies for pastures could only be given if the pastures fulfill like specific rules. Like the grass has to be between this many centimeters and this many centimeters tall, and the slope needs to be not more than this many degrees, and there need to be not too many rocks and all those things. Because they were thinking about basically like fucking Central German pastures or farmland. That's not the reality for like Mediterranean countries. And so that really fucked with a lot of farmers in Spain and Greece and in other like in Italy and basically in southern Italy specifically in like different climates. It got resolved. It got fixed 2 years later, which is still a long time. And by the time I had that debate with my friend, it had already been fixed for years, which is the kind of the funny part with that. So you have those narratives about problems with the EU that just keep on being passed on from person to person, even though they were already fixed like 10 years ago. Like, come on, dude. I should have specified, there's also the rumor that he also plans to represent himself by motivating the French Constitution. Interesting. What do I think of the royalists who wish for a king of France? I regularly do a deep dive on Twitter. So if you go on Twitter and you start like, you can do a deep dive into royalist French Twitter. And it's a wild ride. I love doing it from time to time. because it's just very, very... Oh yeah, here we go. We got the fleur de lis here. Let's see, you click here, at AF Royalist, truly of opposition, proposing the subversion of the regime. And then you like look through, like, who does he retweet? Oh, this guy. And you basically go down this rabbit hole of like wacky Christian extremist royalist people. It's like going down like a QAnon rabbit hole, but like the French traditional royalist version. It's crazy. It's a wild ride. I do that from time to time when I want some Schadenfreude. Bonapartist Twitter is also funny. Oh, I haven't done that yet. That's gonna be my next deep dive. That's gonna be good, for sure. Royalist versus Bonapartist fights are good. Oh, I want to see that. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of that stuff happens. So, like, some people still say we cannot sell Heineken in Germany because the EU had the Reinheitsgebot, or how Romanians say that they aren't allowed to brew raki because the EU at one point wanted to limit home brewing but didn't follow through. Yeah. Even you know what that reminds me of as well? Speaking of like weird disinformation being transferred from person to person. American Second Amendment nuts citing Switzerland as the proof that the Second Amendment works. Dude, those same people, they would go fucking insane under Swiss law. You're not allowed to carry. You're not allowed to walk around with a fucking loaded gun next to your dick. That's the reality of gun law in Switzerland. Vive le roi. Yeah. L'Action Française used to be a royalist far-right paper. Oh, I was missing that context. Oh, so this is a callback. This tweet is a callback. In 1908, this is the first issue of the Action Française. In 1908, their first publication for this royalist far-right newspaper. Okay, what are the headlines? The organ of integral nationalism. So there's an editorial here describing what is integral nationalism. Latest news down here. Then you have an article called from the French from the Patrie Française, the French patrie. I'm not sure how to translate that word. The French action. Interesting. All right. Anyways, yo, everyone, it's that time. It's that time of the stream. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for hanging out. It was a very, very fun stream. Very good conversations too. I really appreciate the interaction with chat. Good discussions. I am going to end the stream roughly now, but please do stick around because I'm going to raid out. I'm on that networking tip these recent times, so I got to keep up with it. Yo, Kidnotkin's still streaming. His subathon's going strong. Holy shit. All right, I like Kidnotkin. We're gonna raid into him. Maybe he's gonna keep streaming. I don't get to raid him like ever because of the time zones and stuff. Allow me to bring us back to the video. From person to person has passed in 2014 Ukraine military. Oh yeah, sorry Aaron. Yeah, I wanted to finish the video, but I'm trying to like kind of limit my streaming time as well, so I don't like bother my girlfriend needs to get up early for work and stuff. Need to like consistently. I need to like consistently stream earlier as well. So, anyways, we're gonna raid out, but please stick around. Kidnotkin is a super cool streamer. Go check out his stream. It's a lot of fun. He's on the subathon too. Which, speaking of which, don't sub to him, or do sub to him if you want to, but don't sub to him. Sub to me. Give me your Prime subs. It's free. And anyways, thanks for watching. I will be streaming tomorrow. I'll be streaming a bit earlier, but I have something at 9. So in the evening, I'm gonna like stream earlier in the afternoon, but I'm not gonna be streaming like tonight's hours in the of the evening, like to 11 or 12. Gonna end towards 9, so it'll be like an earlier one. I will wear that blazer. I will, of course, I will. So yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out. Hope you enjoy Kidnotkin's stream. Hope you keep all the new people. I will. Please do come back. I'll welcome you with wide open blazer-clad arms. Really do appreciate the interactions and everything. Very fun stream. All right, love you all, and
I'm a little uncomfortable with that.
have fun. Bye bye. Have a good one. See you.
You're a money coach, bro.